Thrown to the end zone. What a night, both Sparks make it 4.
Shakes through a couple of tacklers, still on his feet. Hawkins to the end zone. Unbelievable.
This is Chasing the Natty, a college fantasy football podcast.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you all here on this Sunday night. We are back with another college fantasy football live stream where myself and a special guest run through a 30-round college fantasy draft each week, as well as answer your questions there live in the chat. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jared Palmgren. I am the host of this fine establishment, the Chasing the Natty podcast, a year-round show dedicated to the great sport that is college fantasy football. Joining me tonight is Mr. Chris Benzine, one of the fine folks over at Rotowire. You can find his work on Twitter at RotowireCFB, as well as his own personal account that I am a bad host and did not write down. I do know it is at Crispy with 2002. There we go.
Yes.
I was like, there's a bunch of numbers and I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. So
yes, it's overdue for a change. Let's be honest. It's overdue for a change, but I've had it for a long time. So
well, Chris, welcome to the show, man. Those of you those listening may not know off the top of their head who you are, Chris, because you're not somebody who's usually putting out like a lot of just like articles or shows or anything like that. You do a lot of the work over with Rotowire with your whole team over there. But I will tell everyone listening to this show right now, this is a smart guy right here. He has proven it time and time again in the fantasy leagues that I play him in. I have played him twice in the FSGA playoffs for college fantasy, and then last year, of course, I had to defeat Steve, who was trying to take my second ring from me in that league. So Chris and his entire team over there at Rotowire are some smart cookies when it comes to college fantasy. So I want to make sure they have them on. But Chris, I'll give you the floor, man. Why don't you tell everybody who's listening, what's your story, man? How'd you get into college fantasy? What is all the stuff you do over there at Rotowire? Obviously, probably most people know about the tweets, about fall camp and stuff like that. But what else you got going on over there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Rotowire's college football editor. I kind of run the show at Rotowire, so I do all of our projections. I do a lot of most of the article editing and posting and everything basically associated with it. So I'm kind of like the head honcho of the college football side of our site. And yeah, I got started college football. I mean, I grew up in the Madison, Wisconsin area, so I was always around the Badgers. So I've been around college sports my entire life and have always been a big college sports guy. And thankfully, this opportunity, Rotowire, is like right down the road. The headquarters were in Madison and have been. So from there, I was able to just kind of find an easy opportunity coming out of college, and it's kind of blossomed into an opportunity to be fully focused on college football. So I really, really enjoy doing that.
So again, like you said, you got all the stuff going on. You got the tweets that are showing fall camp, which is a must follow this time of year. You did the projections for Fantrax, if that is correct.
Do the projections for Rotowire, and we do have some partners, yes, but the projections are on our site, and we have like custom rankings that go with it. And I also new best ball tool that we've put together that kind of tries to help you with like bye weeks and helps you like kind of see where your team's weak and where strong, where you need some help. So we're really trying to put some things together, and it's a good time right now. It's a busy time of year right now. That's for sure.
No, for sure. Again, you guys are doing good stuff over there. So Chris, we got a 30-round CFF draft tonight. This is basically practice for you because we got the FSGA draft here in a couple of days. You have the 1-2 pick. You know what? I'll go ahead and throw up the draft page here. So you got the 1-2 pick. You're drafting early. I'll be at the pretty much the exact other end. I'm at the 111 here. So you're going with you're early in the order here, Chris. What are you kind of looking at here in the first couple of picks? You don't have to worry about anybody really sniping you. I think Cass there at 101, he's going to take one of your guys. I'm sure you got a backup plan. Who are the two guys you're looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, so I might get a little. I'm not sure it's gonna be too spicy, but like Keywan Lacey, if he were to go 1-2, like fall to 1-2, I'd still take him. I feel pretty strongly about like just his whole situation, where he's at, who he's got around him. That offense is just kind of pretty stable year over year here, and I feel like the floor and ceiling are both really high for him. So 1-2, if he were to fall to me, I'd probably take him. At 1-2, if Lacey goes 1-1, I have the tier of receivers. I feel like there's just kind of a 3 receiver group kind of at the top. In a full PPR, it's a little different than the other formats. This is so in a full PPR, which is what this one is. I'm actually going to jump a certain player named Easton Messer up ahead of Tony and Smith, and he would be my 1-2 pick, which is probably not super common, but just that volume of 107, or he had over 100 catches last year, and he's going to have over 100 catches again. And in a full PPR format, you get that extra bonus, those extra bonus points for every single catch you're getting. And that offense is just going to throw, and there could be some positive touchdown regression. So I feel like this is that's the guy I'm targeting at 1-2. If Keywan Lacey goes 1-1, I'm moving him up over the other 2 receivers in my rankings.
So Mike Bainbridge is pounding his fist hearing this news because he's a big Messer fan, but I don't think he's expecting to get Messer there at 110 regardless. But you're actually not alone on this, Chris, because Mike Bainbridge at during the Kings Classic draft, which is the draft we do in the Fantasy Football Expo every year. Bainbridge was 101. He took Messer, and that was a full PPR league as well. And I'm looking at my projections right now. The exact same thing as what you're saying. Once it's full PPR, Messer moves into my number 1 spot. I already have Messer at number 2. I actually have him ahead of Tony in other formats. Like I said, regardless of whether you're getting points for those receptions or not, that volume is going to provide you a very safe floor for Messer every single week. And quite frankly, he's not really fighting he's not fighting against other receivers in his room the same way that Tony probably will be throughout the season. And even if he is, the sheer volume in that system is going to help him out quite a bit. And I agree with you. The touchdown regression is going to help him out a little bit. Not crazy amount. Like I got him only at 7 touchdowns. I think he had 6 touchdowns last year. So again, slight bump, but that could easily turn into, 7, 8, 9 touchdowns if things continue to go well for him there. So, looked like you want to say something.
Oh yeah, I agree with you that, yeah. I think if you maybe, there's not very common anymore, I don't think, but like in a standard league, I would probably be a little less interested in Messer just because that volume of receptions isn't quite as high, and then the touchdowns aren't going to match what you get from Tony and Smith. So I think if you're in like a standard format, which we actually, Rotowire does a staff league, and it has been going for a long time, and it is a standard league. So in that
That's
format,
very uncommon nowadays.
It is very uncommon. So I would say the vast majority are at least half-point PPR. So in that format, in that rare format, I guess that's where I'd be a little less interested in Messer.
Gotcha. So you would also draft has started, so Cass is on the clock, so you'll be ready to make your pick here, Chris. It'll be either Lacey or Messer. I guess what if both of them make it? Because you could very well go Jeremiah Smith here, and you have to decide between the 2. How are you going to decide?
It's a tough call. I feel like I have a few more questions about, like with Caleb Hawkins going up from the American to the Big 12. I know that's huge. There's just more questions at the running back, but with like Lacey, I don't have as many questions. So I might be like, he's the guy where I feel just safe without any questions about. There's nothing. Obviously, there is Lane Kiffin leaving town. Like that's not. Yeah. We can't just gloss over that. But I just feel like the volume. He's going to get volume. He's obviously all these guys are going to get volume, but the explosiveness of this offense is going to be. Well, no, never mind. I guess Lacey's gone anyway, so I don't have to make that decision.
Nope, you're all good to go there. I will
instead make my pick of Easton Messer. But yes, so I think with Lacey, I kind of have him as a little bit like tier above the other guys at the top there. It's not much, but I personally, for my selections, I just have him a little higher, just because Oklahoma State. I'll just make this. I don't want to drag this on any longer. I'm going to take Messer here to let people continue to pick. But so at the top of the draft, I feel a little safe about that versus those Oklahoma State team. It's basically like a port over from a lot of the North Texas offense from last year. And you look at the Vegas win totals for them, it's about like 6 or 7. So there is like a little risk in terms of like how good is this truly going to be porting over to this. I'm not like expecting this to be a drastic drop off at all, but there is like clearly Vegas doesn't think they're just going to take over the Big 12 as well. So there is a little more risk at that in that part of the jump myself is.
Honestly, the fact that they're even projected for 6-7 wins, I think is a huge win for. Well, but I think that's actually a huge win for college fantasy, right? Because if they were being projected for 3 or 4 or even 5 wins, right? Like there would be a bit more reservation of like, okay, maybe Vegas is seeing a team here that could potentially be quite bad, right? Yeah,
let me double check this. I just actually updated it with Pinnacle today because they're pretty strong. Like, so they have them at 5.6 wins. So they're around 6 wins is where they're projecting them right now. So they're around 6 wins, a 6-6 team from a 1-win team last year. So they're expecting like this team to be a lot better than what the product they put out there last year. So
no, like I said, that's a huge win for college fantasy in that regard. All right, I made my first pick. I went ahead and did it while we were looking at that. All right, so I went with Jaden Baugh. He's quickly, as the season's gone along, turned into a worthy first-round pick in my opinion. And again, the top 20 running back from last year. Yes, he's got a new coaching staff, but that coaching staff has been honestly more prone to workhorse backs than, Billy Napier had been in the past. I'm trying to make sure I have good time on my second pick here. And then I had 2 running backs still in my queue or 3 actually. One was Isaac Brown, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to take him here in the second round just because of that recent camp news of him, not, fully working with the offense right now. But I will take Nate Shepherd here. He is a little bit further down my rankings than probably this pick would indicate, but he is by far one of the safest running backs that I think you can take in college fantasy this year. I mean, Duke, I'm a little worried about their ability to score. He did have like 10, 11 touchdowns last year, so the possibility of not being able to reach that number again does worry me somewhat. But like I said, he's a little bit further down my rankings, but I still think he has one of the highest floors, and given where I'm at in this draft, where I'm on this, 2-1 turn here, I don't know what's going to make it back to me at running back in the 3rd round. And I feel like if I go risky in the 2nd round, like a guy like Darius Taylor, who's always injured, or even like a Jordan Marshall with Savion Hyder sitting there behind him, I feel like that's going to set me up for failure and make me worried about what's going to come back in the 3rd round. Meanwhile, now I got Baugh, I got Shepherd. Those are 2 top 35 running backs from last year that should be set to be the focal point of their offenses again this year. I feel decently good about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to mention some of these early on in the draft. You have some guys that are like these established guys that are guaranteed, like they're going to be the guys. And there are some guys in here where there is risk behind them for various reasons. And like you're saying, Isaac Brown, the risk is more health than it is personnel behind him. With Baugh and Shepherd, you're not going to get a Mekhi Hughes out of Baugh and Shepherd here. Like last year, Mekhi Hughes was the first round pick who did not like it was so enticing because we were all like, he's expected to be the number 1 back for Oregon in that Oregon offense. And then he comes out and he's just not even playing. And it ends up being weird. You're getting a 0 from it. You're not going to have to worry about that with those picks at the turn there.
Now, speaking of picks at the turn here, it's coming back to you at 2-11. You pass up on running back. Obviously,
yes, I knew there was going to be a big run.
I would say
it was going to be a big run.
I would say that's the big risk of taking a wide receiver early on here. Did you get some running backs to fall to you here that you feel good about? Because I feel like if you're at the spot, you have to take a running back here if you take a wide receiver in the first round.
Yes. You to get high volume running backs, you have to still go early round here. You can't wait too long. Otherwise, you're just kind of digging through the gristle for your first round running back or your first RB1, and I can't allow that to happen. I do have more concern with Marshall here, just with Hyder in the backfield. Obviously, Hardy, it's just we don't know how much he's going to play, and I have concerns of let me make my pick here. I guess I'm going to go the Bo Jackson news early in camp. I mean, still, I think he's RB1, but I'm going to make my pick here. I'm going to take I'm going to do a little safer and just take Jalen Buckley, because I just know with Western Michigan, he's going to be the guy. So I don't lose out on, there's no risk of me losing out on that, losing out on having that zero or the drop in production. And with that safe pick, I can kind of at this turn, I can take a little more risks. Like I have now a guy that I know is going to be playing all season and be that guy. So I can take like a Jordan Marshall or Mekhi Hughes to where there's a lower floor, but there's probably a higher ceiling as well. So that's where I'm looking here at more of a ceiling play. And I'm probably, I'm not paying very close attention to the bye weeks yet, but I'm probably gonna take.
It's too early to worry about the bye weeks.
Yeah.
At first, I
have 30
say,
rounds, so
yeah, you have 30 rounds. I would say I wouldn't really pay attention until we're outside the top 10 rounds, and then you kind of look at your roster and say, all right, what do I need to plug my holes with?
I do think there's a risk with Hyder there. I'm worried about that, but I still think that new offense with Beck at Michigan, they're going to play more up tempo. There's going to be more available. I mean, not that Michigan doesn't have a history of tons of available rushing like volume in the past, but there's still going to be plenty of that available this year. And I think that I just feel like Marshall's going to be safe enough. It is a riskier play because I know the buzz name is Hyder, but I still feel like Marshall is, you're not going to just throw a true freshman in there and just be like, all right, go, you're the number one running back right off the bat.
No, that's what I try to explain to people, like, because they're really big on Hyder, and I get it. Like, again, the buzz has been strong, and, you know, he is the top running back in this class, and, you know, there's a lot to like there. But it's not like Marshall was a bad running back last year. Now, I can understand from the Devi perspective that maybe we should be putting him as, like, you know, a day 2 running back going to the NFL, maybe, but Michigan's not just going to throw him to the curb, right? So, like, I think that it'll, at the very least, or at the worst, it'll be a split backfield unless Marshall starts doing things like fumble the ball that forces him to lose that. So let's answer a couple of questions here. Again, we are answering questions all night long. I usually like to wait through the first 3 rounds of the draft here. So we'll start off here with Human Ziggy. He asks, speaking of freshmen, which freshman will have the biggest impact on their team fantasy-wise besides Hyder? Chris, you got any freshmen off the top of your head that you are really big on? I'm going to pull up my dynasty rankings.
Yeah, I need to look through here to be like, who do I think is a freshman? That's one. Give me one name that I think I've heard of, but I do question of. I think Jamal Rule at Nebraska. If we're talking running backs, there's a name that I know he's been bounced around as a guy who's been really impressive in camp. And then there was but Mekhi Nelson is expected to be I mean, he's been back with the team. So there does be some risk there in terms of how he's going to be involved. But another name, I guess, wide receiver, I'm trying to think of who is there's a few wide receivers. I need to look through it right off the bat here to get a second to grab it, but I know there's a few names that if I look at them I'd be like, yes. USC slot receiver. I guess from a fantasy perspective, yes, Trent Mosley. I think he could be a guy that could move into the starting lineup right away for USC this year. I'm not super high on USC as a whole just because of scheduling purposes. I can dig into that a little bit later, I guess, but Trent Mosley, I think, and another guy, Rashawn Jones for Boise State.
That's a great call on Rashawn Jones.
Is another name that could really there was talk in the G5 Hive podcast about it. I think they mentioned Ashton Genty type, like that's like what they were saying he is in the wide receiver room, the buzz around him. So those are a few names that kind of come to mind, I guess, for me.
No, Nate dropped an article in our Slack earlier today where I forget which beat reporter it was, but he basically asked a bunch of staff and players like who were the standout newcomers, and actually the most named player was an offensive lineman, but the second most named player was Rashawn Jones. Like, he's going to have a huge impact. Now, is that going to translate into CFF potential?
Yes, that's the question.
We don't really know. We haven't seen wide receiver production like that under this staff here at Boise State, so we shall see what comes out of that. But if you're in a dynasty draft, just because of the buzz, I think it's hard to ignore. Some other names. By the way, a fun thing about Trent Mosley, he is 20 years old. He is not a normal true freshman in that room. So like, he is very much already kind of has the build of a guy who's much older coming into college football already. So that might partially explain why he's able to, translate into the system so well already. A couple of guys that I'm looking at my freshman rankings here, wide receiver. You already mentioned Mosley. Obviously Chris Henry at Ohio State, he might get some run pretty early on. Jordan Clay out of Washington. I believe the Sports Illustrated team put out their depth chart recently and actually had Clay listed as a starter. So we'll see, again, if that translates. We'll see if that changes as more guys get healthy throughout fall camp. But as of right now, they're saying he'll be involved. Legend Glasker out of BYU is another one I've heard a lot of buzz on. He's probably going to start the year's second team. But with how shallow that wide receiver room is there at BYU, I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks into a starting lineup of some kind. And then I'll name another G6 player here, LaKelian Graves out of Texas State. They've been raving about him. He's the number one recruit that Texas State's ever landed, a 4-star athlete, going to play wide receiver for them. And it sounds like he's going to play early. And he might end up being in that starting lineup along with Chris Don and Bo Sparks there. So
I will say the one thing about Texas State is they do have. I do kind of look through. I do a thing where I compare strength of schedules last year versus this year to kind of be like, all right, instead of looking at just like what is this team's strength of schedule this year, I'm comparing it to last year, and I mean, obviously the change in conference is a big factor in that, but Texas State's one of the biggest jumps in like terms of defenses that they're going to face this year. I use the kind of the SP plus sort of ratings from ESPN. I appreciate Bill Connolly over there. He does a really good job with that, and they kind of plop it into the schedule, and from there you can kind of you can look at just the defenses, and from that I noticed Texas State is, I believe, the 4th biggest jump in like strength of schedule that they're going to face in the country this year.
This is something I've been trying to point out to people. That Pac-12 conference, like, people just assume G6 conference, it means it's going to be great for CFF. They're going to be points galore. That Pac-12 conference actually grabbed a lot of teams there that are really solid on the defensive side of the ball. Fresno State, Boise State, I believe Utah State's defense is rated pretty highly this year. I have to go look at San Diego State. San Diego State's got a highly ranked defense as well. Like those games, I think, are going to be a little bit lower scoring than people anticipate this year. Now, that's not me saying don't draft Pac-12 players, but it's also just saying like don't fully assume that that's what it's going to be, and that would explain Texas State's jump up in the defenses that they're playing against, because they're going from the Sun Belt to that.
Yeah, and that's the other point too, is like I think the Sun Belt the Sun Belt is on a rung lower in terms of the defenses that you're going to face on a weekly basis than what you're going to see out of some of these teams. I mean, clearly, Oregon State and Washington State are not too far removed from being in a power conference, but I think the residue of those rosters is kind of dissipated at this point. There's not really a ton of power conference level players still on those rosters at this point.
I do have to imagine that having Texas on your schedule for Texas State probably does a lot of skewing for their defensive averages this year compared to last year.
Yeah, I mean, it does. You just have to look, and then that's the thing, though, but that does change things. I mean, obviously, one game can make a big difference in theirs if you're replacing a Texas with just anybody. So then maybe like the rest of the season they're more useful, but it does leave one more week where the Texas State offense, you're like, I can't use the players. Like
That's true.
I just can't use them. That's kind of my point with like USC as well. In the middle of that season, early on, I think, so they have a week 0 game. So they have 2 bye weeks. And then in the middle of that season, in that stretch of bye weeks, they have, I think, 5 or 6 weeks in a row where it's either bye week or top 25 SP plus defense that they're going to face. They have one of the arguably the toughest schedule in the country. So it's going to be a question of like, how often are you going to want to use it? I mean, obviously you don't want to bench them, but you're also expecting lower outcomes against those better defenses than you would against, any other, there's regular average defenses that you would face across the board otherwise.
All right, let's we'll answer some more questions here in a second, but I do want to talk about our last 4 rounds of picks here because I did 3 through 7 or 3 through 6 here, and basically I just shored up my running back room a little bit further. I went Bo Jackson. I felt like obviously there's the talk of the camp and him being RB2. I'm not buying into that really hardly at all. I'm going to trust what I saw last year. I mean, he was the clear running back 1 for Ohio State last year as a true freshman. I have no doubt that he'll be RB1 for Ohio State again this year. Isaiah West, I'm sure it'll be fun to see him as the RB2 there, but Bo Jackson will be the RB1 again. And then I went ahead and just took the opportunity to have Joe Jackson as my 4th running back. He falls down these drafts sometimes, and I understand that some people are kind of worried with, Rodney Fields coming in. They also bring in the Oregon transfer. I can't remember, Jay Harris, off the top of my head, and so people are worried they're going to split the carries around a little bit more than what they did last year. But Joe Jackson was phenomenal down the stretch last year. I've said this before on the show, where he just got better and better as the season went on. I highly doubt that means they're just going to move away from him all of a sudden. So if I can get even the upside shot of him repeating that this year as my RB4, I'm more than happy with that. And then I just took 2 wide receivers. I waited on the position long enough. Took Sean Wilson, 90-plus targets last year. He loses his partner in crime, who also had 90-plus targets. Usually we see in the offensive systems like that, when you have 2 main guys and then one leaves, the one who's left behind usually goes absolute bananas the next year. And then I took one of my safer wide receiver picks in Anthony Evans. Somewhat of a similar situation with Brendan Thompson leaving ahead of him. That slot wide receiver is usually almost always produced for Jeff Lebby. And so I think he's another guy that can go bananas this year. Chris, you're on the clock here at 6-11. You also made the picks of Mark Fletcher and Dylan Riley. So what's going through your mind right now?
So I kind of wanted to do another little pairing of like safe with Fletcher and a little more risky with Dylan Riley, because I mean I think Riley's pretty strongly at the top of the depth chart. So I want to do that. I like to pair the combos together of like ceiling and whatever, and ceiling and floor. But now here I'm gonna make this pick. I feel like the tight end, there's kind of like a 1-2. There's a kind of like a 3 tight end kind of top of the class here that drops off a little bit after that. And I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to grab that before it disappeared. And now I'm probably.
You got double tap tight end?
I'm not going to double tap tight end this year. No, I'm not going to double tap tight end. I think I'm probably going to try to take either another running back or a receiver here. I think I'm going to.
Does taking Messer that early make you feel more comfortable with waiting on receiver afterwards?
Yeah, that's part of it, is like you take Messer and you miss out on some of the top running backs, so you kind of just like hit running back a little harder. And I feel pretty safe with Caleb Komalafe from Northwestern. I just feel like he's locked into that number 1 running back role as both runner and receiver, and now it's Chip Kelly's offense. And I feel like that offense is a little better this year than people are going to give credit for. Obviously, they're in the Big Ten, but I just feel like this is, again, I'm pairing I want to take some shots, but then I also want to take some safe bets to be like, I have these guys that could be in the lineup every week. And then later on, especially, that's when I want to take even more like flyers. Like those are the guys where it's like, I think these guys can jump up rounds later on in the draft. So I feel like that's kind of where but those guys later on in the draft are more like the ceiling isn't quite as high. Whereas these ones early on, the ceilings are higher and the floors are lower, or floors are like higher than the players later in the draft who are risks that are the ceilings are lower and their floors are lower and later on in the draft. But yeah, so like these guys, the Komalafes, whatever, you can kind of get a better picture to be able to pinpoint projections a little bit better than those guys where there's a lot more uncertainty. They're going to be a lot higher. Highs and lows are a lot lower, or higher and lower for those players.
No, I gotcha. I'm upset over here. I'm sulking because I've gone to the days when Ashton Gray and CJ Miller were running backs that I could pick up later in a draft. They just went off 6'9" and 7'5". Oh my god, man! I
completely forgot to cue them. I Ashton Gray specifically. I'd agree with you on that one. But yes, go ahead.
No, it just breaks my heart. I can't get him in any league now. It's just crazy. I used to grab him at literally every draft that I was in, and then now it's like, I love him. Like Gray probably is right. I mean, both of them. Yeah, running back 25 through 35. It's just I'm so used to being able to wait on them, and now I gotta reset my mind here as we get closer to the season. Like, nope, you talked them up too much, Jared. They're going higher now. So,
and there was some you could see the buzz. I've listened to that G5 Hive podcast recently too, and they're talking about how he's going to be probably the guy there. And you also saw, I think there's been more recent like information about like, hey, the offensive coordinators, like we're lucky to have Gray in this backfield. Like, and from what you saw, he's coming over from North Texas with his OC.
Yeah.
And he put up a huge game. He already had an audition. Like he's got a game under his belt of live action where he put up big numbers in that bowl game as the lead back for them last year. So I think he's primed for a pretty big season. And I actually do have a projections refresh coming out here in the next couple of days. That's going to probably bump Gray up as well. So that's one name that I meant to have queued up, but I wouldn't have been able to get him, I guess, anyway at that turn because he was grabbed before then. So I applaud the pick there.
I've had Gray top 30, I think, since at least April. Like I've been on him for a while now. Now I don't know what to do here. Because one, Mike threw me off because he took first Gundy took Dylan Wade, which has been the tight end that I've probably have too many shares of, but once Jamari Johnson and them and Travis Green come off, Wade's usually the guy that I'm looking at. I wanted to stack Wilson with Minikuchi because I don't have a quarterback yet, but Mike stole that plan, so I got myself a share of Ian Strong. I've been trying to get him the last couple of times, but now I'm thinking do I go quarterback here and say that out loud, and now everyone's going to take all the quarterbacks by the time they get back to me, or do I take a wide receiver who is still... You know what? Actually, I'm curious to see how far this wide receiver falls, so I'm going to go quarterback here. I'll go a guy who was top 15 for CFF last year, Marcel Reed, and just kind of go with the safe floor there. I know some people were thrown off by the fact that he didn't have the greatest end to the season last year, but I think he'll bounce back well this year. He does lose Colin Klein, so that's not great, but he's another guy that's going to probably rush for 600-700 yards in the SEC, and you're probably okay with that. But there's one player that's still on the board that I'm actually very curious to see where does he fall to, simply because of some recent news on him.
Just teasing it, huh?
I can't say the name. Chris, I'm sure you've seen enough of these where it's like these guys in the chat, they're vultures, man. Like as soon as you say a name, they're coming off the board. Speaking of the chat, let's answer a couple more questions here. NC Womega 6158 asks, do you think it's worth drafting Jacob Middlebrook over Peyton Lewis now, since Middlebrook seems to have won the RB1 position battle? I mean, that's the news. That's what they're saying over there at Sports Illustrated, and they're pretty emphatic about the fact that not only has he won it over Lewis, it sounds like it may not even be close. And that's That's a big change because the whole talk this offseason has been that there's going to be a big split among those three running backs. They brought in three running backs for a reason. They didn't want to have a clear RB1 like they had last year because they were afraid that if he went down, they wouldn't have anybody behind him. But now the news is that Middlebrook seems to be separating a little bit. I don't know if that translates into him getting Jamari Taylor kind of workload. But if you're going to take a shot on a guy at this point, I think it has to be Middlebrook. I just don't know where I would be willing to draft him at this point. He's typically been a guy that goes, round 20 plus. Chris, you got any thoughts on that?
So I will say, I believe I saw the article talking that, and there was a discussion of like, well, I think he's moved into that 1A ahead of the 1B. So maybe he's not quite yet I think they mentioned like it could turn into a Jamari Taylor situation if it goes that well the rest of the way or whatever. But as of right now, I'm not necessarily drafting him as if he's like a workhorse. I think it's more of like he's gonna now be the heavier end of the split between those two running backs.
Yeah,
so I would I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far and take him yet, or to like bump him up into workhorse territory, but I would definitely move him ahead of Peyton Lewis in your rankings and where you're drafting him. Like if wherever you were drafting Lewis before, at least move him there.
Agreed.
And then if you feel like you're confident he's going to like take on a larger workload, maybe reach for him a little bit above that point. So
couple of great picks here. You're on the clock here, Chris, but I do want to highlight some of the things. So the player I was talking about was Tanu Kynes. He was still on the board in the 8th round. I thought about taking him, but with news of him still kind of not being fully healthy coming into fall camp, I was curious to see if he would fall or how far he would maybe fall. I was going to take him in the 9th round if he was still there. I think it'd be ridiculous to let him fall any further, but Avery Johnson was another player I was looking there at my pick in the 8th round, so great pick there by Reagan. Hilton Alexander is a guy who's been rising up, so Justin, good value there. And then, Chris, you take Dante Moore with your first quarterback there. I'm not as in on Dante Moore this year because I'm just, quite frankly, not as in on pocket passing quarterbacks unless they're, Caden Velkamp. So is this just because you waited so long at the quarterback position you felt the need to grab somebody safe, or do you think there's another level that Dante Moore can get to this year?
It's a combination of that and just I have Jamari Johnson already, and
Fair
I wanted to pair the two together. So it's just like he's right there around this point, and I want to. I have Jamari Johnson. I might as well take a quarterback to pair with him at that point. So that's kind of also in my consideration. And
You're nice.
I'm going to take him early. I'm going to take him early because I've been pushing him up, and I know a lot of these are sitting up there near the top. But yes, Emir Knight, PPR. There was a report in spring that talked about how it talked from Rhett Lashley. There was Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and it said Rhett Lashley had said that he thinks he's going to catch between 70 and 100 balls this year. And if that's the case, if he's going to catch between 70 and 100 balls, and he said he compared him to he thinks he's going to have a James Prochet like season. And in those seasons for Prochet,
I've got the stats pulled up if you want me to read them out.
I know they were both over 100 receptions. I think there was two 100 receptions. Am I wrong on that? Maybe it was 100 targets. Maybe I'm thinking of targets, but
no. One of them was over 100 receptions, and the other one was 93.
Okay.
So yeah, God forbid it's only 93 receptions.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to be heartbroken if I only get 93 receptions out of him. But yes, so just the fact that that's being reported about as like a potential outcome. I've been pushing him up in I took him early in Tadpole Bowl just to push him up the rankings a bit. So that is one player that I have been targeting throughout draft season so far. I've been more in on this is a good refresh right before we have our FSGA draft, because I've been a little, after doing all of these projections, I've been kind of more on the power conference side of things a little bit, because we've been doing like underdog drafts and doing Tadpole Bowl, and those are all been focused on power conference. So it's just good to have another little, I had to study up again a little bit right before these drafts coming up to make sure I was tight on my knowledge of some of the smaller schools that tend to fall by the wayside sometimes, especially in like news reporting and whatnot. So
No, for sure. All right, I'm coming up here. Given that Mike's already got traded as green, unless he wants to double up. Oh, we took Richardson. That hurt. I'm gonna go ahead and take my tight end here. I'll take the DJ Vanami here. Honestly, I feel like a value considering Wade went in the 7th, Green went in the 6th, Jamari Johnson, Terrence Carter in the 6th as well. Like, to get a guy that I consider in the top 5 tight ends here in the 9th round, 2 to 3 rounds after those guys, I feel like I probably on one hand just got lucky, just being honest in terms of getting the value at tight end, but I feel solid about that. Kind of feel the pressure to take a quarterback here because things feel like they're drying up somewhat there, but I think I got a couple that I feel like I can rely on, and maybe I shore up my wide receiver room, or you know what? I'm gonna do one for my boy Chris Benzine. I'll take Daejuan Williams here in the 10th round. He would be heartbroken to see Daejuan Williams fall this far in the draft, and can't not take him here. And for those that don't know, Daejuan Williams wasn't super impressive at Maryland last year. In fact, Maryland was actually one of the lowest in terms of rush attempts, team rush attempts on the year last year. So you might be wondering, why the heck am I taking him? Well, they went and grabbed Clint Trickett out of Jacksonville State. Their main weakness was the running game, and boy, did they go and grab a offensive coordinator that can help them fix that. And so I think Daejuan Williams will see a huge benefit to that. Michael Bainbridge with Dylan Jones here in the 10th round. I literally just added him to my queue because I'm like, okay, I haven't updated my rankings fully on Fantrax. So I'm like, okay, I knew I moved Dylan Jones up recently, need to make sure he's in my queue so I remember to grab him. And I was never going to grab him if he was going to go in the 10th round. And boy, I think people are just kind of getting to the point where, we kept looking at Durham, we kept looking at Barry. Neither one of them transferred after Lane Kiffin came in. So we're like, okay, maybe Kiffin goes with one of these guys. You bring in Dylan Jones, you're like, okay, that's a fine addition. And then we just start getting the steady drumbeat. Dylan Jones looks good. Dylan Jones looked good. Dylan Jones is with the ones. Dylan Jones is ones. And everyone's like, okay, read you loud and clear, LSU beat report. He's the guy to go with. So, and that goes to the comment we got from David Nolan in the chat. He said after Tatus Green, Jackson Harris will be the number 1 wide receiver, and then Dylan will be the lead running back. I don't think it's controversial at this point to say that Dylan Jones is the best running back to pick for CFF drafts at this point. I will disagree with the Jackson Harris take. I do think Jace Brown is probably still your number 1 wide receiver over there. Chris, what do you think about that LSU offense?
Yeah, I was going to mention something. Dylan Jones being a Wisconsin transfer as well. I'm familiar with him. He was he ran away with the competition last fall at Wisconsin. So I was kind of familiar with him already there, but going into that season, at the end of spring, they lost their left tackle to an injury, torn ACL. Then their starting quarterback played 1 quarter and one other drive. So that's just been a curse that's been going for multiple years. And their starting center barely played as well. So there's really a lot working. And then Dylan Jones himself got hurt, but there was a lot working against Dylan Jones, probably facing a lot of stuffed boxes, a lot of turnover on the offensive line that just wasn't working in his favor. But he looked really good in fall camp last year at Wisconsin, and I was not surprised to see him. I mean, I guess just given the fact that you had Caden Durham and Harlan Berry back with LSU, it is a bit surprising to just see him come in and take over. But at the same time, I'm not shocked because I've personally heard about the talent of Dylan Jones prior to this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking to me with Durham. He looked so good freshman year, and it's just been nothing ever since. It's the same thing with Caleb Jackson. I don't know what's in the water with this. The true freshman running backs looking good year 1 at LSU, and then just doing nothing from then on. It sounds like if Dylan Jones is the number 1 guy, it's going to happen to Harlan Berry too. So I guess we just got to be careful with these LSU running backs going forward. But
there is a question, I guess, about if it's going to be a Kewan Lacey level of RB1, or if it's going to be is it going to be that, or is it going to be a little more split than what people are anticipating, or or is it going to be a little more split than like what we saw last year? But the word seems to be that like he is the number one guy at least. So we know he should probably be moving up rankings at the very least. It's just a question
for sure.
of like, I guess how much of the carry share he ends up taking.
I'm trying to pull up, because when people think of like split under Lane Kiffin, they actually think of probably a couple years ago where not Matt Jones, who was it? Henry Parrish led them, and let's see, it's under Mississippi. And the deal with that actually is like it was lesser in terms of him being the RB1, but he was still pretty clear RB1. Like he had 130 carries in nine games, and I think part of that was maybe even less than that because I think he only played a couple snaps in another game. So let's assume it's 9 games. Like he was still getting 175 carries. Like that's still a pretty solid amount for CFF. So if you're looking at that as the floor for Lane Kiffin RB1, like then Dylan Jones more than worth a pick here in this 10th round. You took Kevin Jennings there. You took Chase Hendricks there. I can't remember, I never validated the report, but I saw some people discussing a report saying Chase Hendricks might be moving outside and then Cooper Perry might be in the slot there at Cal. Does that change your tune a little bit on Chase Hendricks potentially if that ends up being true? Or are you just relying on Hendricks, the talent here?
I mean, the slot definitely
Willie Rodriguez
does help.
in the 11th. Wow. All right. Mike Bainbridge's going to be mad at that one.
I do think Willie Rodriguez, yes, very, very talented tight end there at Kentucky. But yeah, in terms of Chase Hendricks, if he does move out of the slot, that does maybe limit his upside of like number of receptions in a PPR format. Just generally speaking, your slot guys are going to be the guys who are getting more receptions, but maybe fewer touchdowns a little bit. But I just kind of trust that Cal offense and to kind of spread it around somewhat. And I don't know that Perry in the slot is as much of a I mean, he could be, but I feel like I guess maybe a little bit more. I probably need to look into that a little bit more myself because I'm trying to, as much as I'm following along, I may have missed the thing or two, but if he's competing with Ian Strong outside for targets, there might be a little bit of bit more of a concern to this, how many are going to go to Hendricks versus Strong.
Yeah, I would say Strong I think we both agree Strong's probably the better talent. And then if we're going after Hendricks, we're going after the fact that, again, this offense might throw 400 or 500 times this year, and that slot will get a lot of targets.
Yeah, so I mean that would be the one downside, I guess, if he does move out of the slot. So I will look into that. I appreciate any and all little tidbits because I am trying to update my projections throughout the preseason. So I'll need to take another peek at that.
Again, I'll be clear. I just saw some people talking about this. I have not found the report myself, so I will let y'all know if I ever find that. So, all right, it's coming back to me here in the 11th. A couple of picks that I was looking at here. Braylon Staley, Carlos Hernandez were 2 wide receivers I had in my queue. I liked your Kevin Jennings pick there. Very safe floor quarterback. Your quarterback room's very safe so far, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, it was also, again, it's dumb, but I like to...
Michael! Come on, ship! Dang! All right.
I will say, North Carolina is another one that I'm not super high on as an offense. I mean, they're just I mean, I know that there's talent there, but North Carolina is another one of those teams that they have a very big strength of schedule gain, I think, this year. I have to double check. Yes, so they're like among the bottom. Only Georgia Tech in the ACC has they're number 6, and part of it is I think the gains are the fact that teams are adding that extra conference game this year. There's the ACC and the SEC are adding that extra conference game. So like you're going to see a lot of these teams, instead of playing non-FBS or not non-FBS, but like instead of playing power conference opponents or non-power conference opponents, I should say, instead of playing G6 or FCS opponents, they're adding an extra conference game in there. So it's going to naturally result in, and some of those are not going to be like bad things. Like sometimes that does help to be facing other, because it's closer game. But at the same time, when you're looking at the schedule and you're like, oh, it's FCS Mercer this week, you kind of feel pretty good, like safe, like I can put this guy in the lineup. No issues at all. Like he's in.
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice you're willing to make, 8 out of 10 times of just like, okay, yes. Yeah, he could be out by quarter 2 and only thrown 2 touchdowns, but there's also a possibility he's thrown 5, and I'll go with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily going to get the same volume on a week where you're facing an FCS team, just because the efficiency should be much greater than like in any other kind of a regular power conference opponent. So
yeah, I'm more in on North Carolina this year than I was last year, or actually no, I should rephrase that. I was in on North Carolina last year, and that was a mistake. This year, I feel more confident that I should be in on North Carolina, just because I do expect that Bobby Petrino hire at offensive coordinator to at least benefit that offense somewhat. I don't care like what's going on with Bill Belichick and the disaster of a hire that's been. But Bobby Petrino, I feel like, is setting himself up to try to become that interim head coach if things go south. And he'll be the one, I think, really running the show, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So that makes me feel good about players like Ship, like Demon June. It'll really come back down to quarterback play, though, because good God, I don't like that quarterback room. Although your boy Billy Edwards is set to be the starting quarterback there. Does that give you any confidence, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, no.
I would say that was a lie through your teeth.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Oh man, I actually instantly regretting that pick, and now I think about it because I just heard, but just wondering about, because I think that Old Dominion's more of a quarterback battle. Now that I think about it, I just listened to this G5 Hive, and I was like, I think that Hennickel's going to be the guy. I think he's going to be. I don't have too much concern. I think there's a lot of upside there with Hennickel, running it, just his rushing ability in this 6-point or 4-point passing touchdown format. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there is some risk. I know that they were talking about like, oh, there could be some concern with Potter and or not some concern, but like there is like an actual quarterback battle going on at Old Dominion that maybe goes a little underreported compared to what people are and just kind of anticipating. Hennickel is like the guy. So
Here, we're past round 10. I am going to take a look at my bye week situation. All right, so running backs need to avoid running bye week 5 and 8 because I have 3 running backs at bye 8. Ugh. And wide receiver.
Yeah, that's the thing that tends to get you later on if you're not paying too much. If you don't pay enough attention to it, that especially in a best ball format like this, the draft's sort of like a best ball format.
Yeah.
You don't have the ability to account for that during the season in any way. So that in the draft.
Yeah. So again, running backs. Let's see, who do I add onto my? There's actually no running backs in my queue that are anywhere near bye week 8 outside of one that I see. So that actually could end up being all right for me. So let's see. 12th round here. I went quarterback, running back. Get me a share of Kyson Brown. That's another person who's been getting a lot of buzz out of camp right now, as not just being talked about, but being talked about as the clear number 1 back for Arizona State. That's my 1, 2, 3. I think that's my 6th running back. So I feel pretty good about maybe getting that. I do kind of regret taking Stockton over Keelan Russell. I thought Russell had come off the board already. I guess I just missed him in my rankings. And
are you
quite frankly,
at all about the quarterback battle there? Are you concerned? Do you have any concern? I mean, obviously, if you're saying you don't, you're taking Russell. You're seeing you're probably on board with Russell winning that job. But do you have any concern there?
I think anywhere past round 10 more than fine. I feel pretty good about Russell winning that battle eventually. I know the beat reporter said that like, oh, I think it's gonna be Max Job. If it's Max Job week 1, I don't think it'll be Max Job by week 5. Just straight up. I think it could end up being a situation where Russell just kind of takes over at some point. All right, Mike, don't make me mad here. Don't make me mad, Mike. He did not make me mad. All right, I'm going to use this opportunity to take another quarterback that I haven't had a ton of chances to get. I'll take Micah Alejado here. And there is a wide receiver still on the board here, so I'm tempted to Collier, no. You guys are killing me with these, just taking all my guys.
I do love Hollier this year without Ted Hurst there anymore. That just Hollier's going to be. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's that number one target in that offense.
He could be the tight end one just because of the situation he's in. Now, touchdowns might be hard to come by. We'll see how that turns out. I should go quarterback here because I only have Reed, Stockton, and Alejado. But I'm going to go Reed Harris here. He shouldn't still be on the board at this point, quite frankly. I know that... where did Mario Miller go? 11th round? I'm not one to really pick between those two. I think they're both got upside in that offense. I think it's I've said it before. I think there's an opportunity where both of them get 75, 80 targets, and given how much of a big play threat both of those guys are, that should be more than enough to get them CFF relevant. It's just going to really come down to, do they have the quarterback play to get them the ball? Because Mikey Keene is QB1. Don't you know, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. I sure hope not, because if he is, that would be a big problem, I feel like, from what we're expecting from them. But I think Cutter Boley probably, I would be very shocked if we go to week 1 and Mikey Keene is under center for Arizona State. So, but yeah, I was going to mention with Kyson Brown, I know earlier in the offseason you weren't super high on him overall, just with, I think it was a Pac-12 only draft. So maybe it was one of those during the season. I remember it was back, but just remember you weren't super high on Brown. And I was like, I don't necessarily think he's like a stud level player, but I just think he's like a safe guy, like a lot of volume going to be in that backfield this year.
Yeah.
And let me make my pick here and I'll expand further in a sec.
Well, while Chris is making his pick, I will say we are roughly halfway through the draft. So if you guys are watching and you are enjoying what you are seeing here, I appreciate you guys joining us. This is a great time we have here on Sunday night every single week. But if you have not already, make sure you like the stream. Make sure you keep commenting in that chat. Again, believe it or not, you guys continuously commenting throughout the stream, even if it's for fun little things, like you want to poke fun at my face when Hollier went off the board or whatever, please do so. That kind of stuff helps out the stream a ton after we're done in terms of getting people's eyeballs on it. Afterwards, make sure, or just do what Carp's doing, just saying, yeah, college football is the best. That kind of stuff helps us out a ton. I believe there's a little hype button underneath the stream as well. So if that's available to you guys, go ahead and click that. That actually helps out a ton as well. And hit that share button. Send this to 2 of your friends that might be interested in joining us. Again, we're talking college fantasy, obviously, here all night long, but we'll talk college football as well. So if you just got some college football buddies that want a place to hang out this Sunday night, please go ahead and do so. And also keep the questions coming into the chat. I have not been my best tonight in terms of keeping up with those, so we'll actually go back really far here. We'll go to Sad Tide Fans question. He says, I'm in a redraft full PPR league that requires 2 starting tight ends. I've got the 11th spot out of 12 teams, full player pool. Should I double tap early, 3rd and 4th rounds, 5th and 6th round picks? So basically, full PPR league, start 2 tight ends. Chris, when would you, in a league like that, potentially go for a double tap at tight end?
So, I mean, if there's no, I'm assuming there's no premium for the tight end receptions or anything like that.
He did not say so.
Unless that's the case, like the tight ends aren't going to be outscoring a lot of the other positions. So I'm not going to necessarily unless you're getting the top tier tight ends, a handful of the top guys up here, I'm not necessarily going to be pushing tight end a ton to I'm not going to be going super early on double tapping tight ends, because I feel like there's a lot of value where they drop, like even Hasley dropping this far in the draft, and Hollier down here. I'm assuming it's all, you said it was all like FBS teams, I assume. I'm not 100% sure.
He did not specify.
Okay. Well, if it's all teams, even if it's not, like Hollier here and Hasley here, I think these 2 guys are undervalued a little bit and are a perfect double tap kind of pick this late in the draft that I think have a lot of upside that you can get later in the draft. So if that would be my kind of take on it, is unless you really want to, if you're really intent on double tapping the tight end, either try to double tap a couple of the really early guys, which could give you an advantage over people that are not getting a good tight end, or just wait and grab guys with some value picks later on.
Speaking of tight end values, I want to know what convention was called in like the last like week and a half where everyone got together and decided to remove any and all value at tight ends recently, because again, just looking at this draft, Willie Rodriguez in the 11th, Hosley here in the 14th, these are guys who used to be able to grab like round 20 plus, and then now everyone's caught on to, hey, these are pretty dang good picks, and so we should be moving these guys up. Michael, stop it. You keep taking my guys like right in front of me. Mike, you're not going to be allowed on these streams anymore drafting if you're just going to take all my guys right in front of me. This is getting ridiculous, man. No, I'll pivot here. I'll go quarterback. Owen McCowan out of UTSA. He's been solid for CFF the last couple of years as my fourth quarterback. I'll take that as a nice safe floor play there. And then I think I'm going to hit, honestly, with the way tight ends are coming off the board here, I might go ahead and grab my second tight end. Like it's getting kind of nuts out there. You know what? I'm going to get Mike back. There. How do you like that, Mike? I'm going to take your boy there. All right. We got a question here from user. I'm not going to guess all those letters and numbers. I think he just hasn't changed his name yet. He said, lots of targets up for grab at USC. Hard to know who will get the ball. Is Terrell Anderson worth a flyer, or should we look for a more stable situation? I mean, it's hard to say that you can find a more stable situation than a guy like Jaden Maiava, who's going to be going to his third year starting for Lincoln Riley's offense there. I think quarterback situation, you're pretty stable. The wide receiver room, I think you're right. It is certainly a more, obviously lots of question marks outside of maybe Tanu Kynes, and even he's got the question mark of injuries. They brought in Anderson. I think he'll end up starting. I don't know how much of a value that's going to be, but I think it'll be a pretty high floor guy for the most part. Like I struggle to see a world where he finishes less than, what, Chris, 600 yards? If he's starting outside wide receiver for USC?
You're talking about Anderson?
Yeah. Or just insert starting outside wide receiver for USC. It feels like it's hard to imagine a world where they're under 600 yards, right?
Yeah, I mean, the top two, obviously I mentioned earlier that the USC situation schedule-wise is a little rough. So there might be some weeks where you're like, I don't know if I want to trust starting him. But yeah, the wide receiver two in that offense, I mean, you look at, they just had two massive outputs last season, and this offense it's going to change. They're going to have multiple fantasy relevant wide receivers. So I would definitely agree with you that the 600 is probably a pretty safe floor, but you do lose an extra week by taking USC because you do have that week 0 game, assuming your league doesn't count it, which there aren't very many that do. So,
no.
Make my pick here quickly.
So also we got another question in the chat here from Sad Tide Fan. He said, what kickers are we liking in his league for a 50-plus yard field goal? They're 8 points, which honestly, good on your league. I actually kind of like that. That makes kickers a little bit more relevant. And Carp says ban kickers for life. There's also that. Two names that come to my mind for what you're probably going to want with kickers. And I have thought about this a little bit more since I discussed kickers last week on CTN, where I'll be real, I threw in the towel and I was just like, just draft kickers from good offenses. But if you want to take a step beyond that, draft kickers on what you expect to be good offenses that are led by defensive head coaches. Right? So the people that come to mind are my boy, Kirby Smart. So draft Peyton Woodring, right? That offense should be pretty good for Georgia just because of the talent. But he's going to take the 3 points far more often than he is going to go for it in fourth down once he's in that kind of inside the 35-yard range. Another guy that comes to mind is probably Tate Sandel out of Oklahoma. Similar deal. Brent Venables being the head coach. Ben Arbuckle, we obviously love that system. So another situation where they're going to rely on that kicker. Chris, I don't know how much thought you've put into kickers, but do you have any that come to mind that you would draft?
To me, tie your kicker to the offenses that are putting up points. Like, I'm not relying on field goals. You're going to get more field goal opportunities to me on offenses that just run more plays in general. Like, obviously, look for teams that are up-tempo teams, and ideally, honestly, teams that maybe not as efficient. always because they'll learn a lot of plays, maybe not punch it in as much. So that's kind of what I would look at. We do project kickers generally, and one thing that I'm generally looking at, I've kind of noticed a trend, is like if you find a team that doesn't score as many touchdowns but runs a lot of plays, those are the ones that are going to find a lot of field goals for. So that's what I would recommend, is look at the teams that you think are going to be up tempo and maybe not be as quite as efficient as like in Oregon, even Oregon, stuff like that. Like I'll take my chances, but because when they aren't punching in the end zone, they're generally they're moving it down the field. So yeah, my main thing I look for is I'm just looking for teams that are going to put up or are going to run a lot of plays and get into scoring position a good decent amount of time.
Well, there goes Terrell Anderson off the board. So I guess we convinced Mike that's a pretty good pick there. Another good pick I want to shout out here, Mark Reagan with that DeAndre Johnson pick out of Jacksonville State. I did a little bit of research on him for tomorrow's CTN episode, or excuse me, Tuesday's CTN episode. By the way, spoiler alert: CTN's being delayed one day this week. But I did a little bit of research on DeAndre Johnson. I realized I'm probably a little bit too low on him, even though I don't love the passing situation there with Caden Creel, but that's a good pick there. And I'll ask you, Chris, before I make my pick here. Sire Gaines just came off the board here at 17-6. You took Dylan Riley earlier in the draft. Is that a kind of double up that you wish you kind of had on your team there, or what are you thinking?
Well, for me, it just, in general, I am not a big grab multiple players in the same backfield. I'd either just take shots, because I feel like if you take both, you're going to get best like one good one. You could end up with zero, but not zero. You could end up with you're like almost guaranteed to probably get one good one, which is the risk involved, is like I could end up with Sire Gaines outproducing him this year for some reason, and that would hurt me. But I'd rather take more shots at different backfields to have a chance at having multiple number one running backs. Like that's my general philosophy, is I'll just take my chance on the guy that I think will end up taking the job, or even if not necessarily the case that I think they'll take the job, but the guy that I think has the chance to do that. And I'll just want to take that and multiple backfields so that I have a chance at multiple RB1s. So it's not always necessarily going to pan out for me, but I'd rather take more shots at different backfields where you're getting production out of you're getting RB1 production out of multiple spots, rather than like, well, if Gaines is the guy, then I just wasted my pick on Dylan Riley, and if Dylan Riley is the guy, then I wasted my pick on Gaines.
See, I disagree slightly, because Boise State is actually one of those backfields I think could end up with 2 800+ yard running backs, and so
Spencer Danielson, when he came in there, they kind of changed it a little bit with that offense. It's been more pass friendly when he took over that offense.
But like when both of them are healthy, right? Like they made it very clear that they're going to run the ball a ton this year, because that's where the strength of their team is. Now maybe Rayshawn Jones changes that, and maybe they didn't know what they had in Rayshawn Jones at that point. But like quite frankly, again, Maddox Madison, we know who he is. Like there's no changing who he is. He's pretty limited as a quarterback. He's a solid floor quarterback, but he's not going to be the one that saves the day, right? So meanwhile, you got two monsters there in Gaines and Riley. I have a feeling they'll run the ball a ton with those guys, and we're not going to get Ashton Jeanty levels, but I mean, if you split Jeanty's production in half, maybe we're looking pretty solid there. General question from Mike here. He says, kind of random, what's your process in finding fall camp news? Twitter lists, Google, message boards, all of the above? I would say, yeah, all of the above. I mean, again, when I'm doing the fall shows, I'll definitely just kind of Google like college camp or fall camp news and just see kind of what pops up when I do that. But I would say the biggest cheat code of them all is the fact that keeping up with all this news, it takes a village. And the best way to do that is to join a Discord of some kind. For really, I mean, obviously college fantasy is probably the best one. So obviously, our Discord at Campus of Canton, people are always posting news and tweets they see. Mike's Discord, the CFF site, they got whole channels dedicated to every single team. And when somebody finds news, they post it there. That's really the best way to do it. Nobody can keep up with all of these teams at once, at least not on a raw basis. And so basically having it split up over everybody, and as people find information, they bring it all into one place. That certainly makes things a whole lot easier. And then obviously, Chris and his team over at Rotowire, they've got their Twitter account that's constantly posting out news. They got a whole team pretty much doing the exact same thing I was just talking about with the Discords, but instead you just have them all write those news bits into tweets for people to get.
Yeah, I mean, they're associated with, we write updates on our site as well with the news and analysis on our site. So each post that comes out is kind of like automated based on the news update that we write on our site. So we do have writers that are writing these updates and following along with the news, but obviously a lot of this news is buried in articles in the middle of nowhere that you have to try to find and dig up, specifically looking for players. So we do our best to try to keep on top of as much as we can, but obviously there's going to be, with 138 teams and different teams getting different levels of coverage, there's going to be some news that falls through the cracks here and there.
No, for sure. You're never going to find one source that's going to be able to keep up with it all. But again, Rotowire, and Rotowire and these Discords are probably the closest thing you're going to get. Dadgum, you taking Rashid Williams? I just thought about taking him, and I was like, nah, I can wait another round. Clearly could not. What about Braden Bennett there? You took him, the running back out of Eastern Michigan there. Eastern Michigan is actually one of the only depth charts that we've gotten. Granted, again, the fall camp still has to actually happen. But we did get an official depth chart release from them, and Braden Bennett was not atop that running back depth chart for Eastern Michigan. So I was going to ask if you were aware, and if you were aware,
I was not aware. I need to look into this, so I need that's something I have not seen.
It threw all of us off guard as well. I think he may not even been number 2. I can't remember off the top of my head, but granted, I think he's been banged up, so maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I try to keep on as much, but I'm updating as many of these depth charts as I can, and I did not see this. Mike Bainbridge posted. I'm seeing it right now. That I'm surprised. Generally, there aren't a lot of preseason depth charts, so I didn't even realize that there was a team releasing.
That's what depth charts. I was surprised by it too. When Mike posted it, I'm like, I guess we can get depth charts before fall camp. That works for me. Oh man, look at this running back trio that just came off the board here. Chaney, Chroma, Ijiboy. Those are all 3 really good picks at the running back position there. And pretty much just dried my queue right the hell up.
I honestly wasn't. It was just at the top of my projections for Bennett, and that was it. So that's a good shout out. I definitely need to move him down the board if we have these depth charts coming out with him down. And I did not see that one myself recently. That was from July. Huh? I did not notice that one. I appreciate the message. I'll have to readjust my rankings with that as well. So go ahead. That's what you're saying.
No, it's all good. By the way, Anderson Brokart made a good point in the chat saying that in addition to the Discords and message boards and all of that, just finding the most reliable podcast that you believe in for each team helps out a ton as well. And obviously G5 Hive does a great job with that, finding the best group of 6, beat reporters to talk about each of the teams. Those are obviously gold mines of information. I'm going to go ahead and take my third tight end here. Oh, Anderson. Well, that was a mistake. I was going to take Martin on the way back here, but Anderson said, "No, sir, that's not happening." All right. Well, I regret my tight end pick because I don't think Anderson was about to take Flanagan there. So now I got to pivot here. Got 6 running backs. I still got to fill 4 more running back spots. I'm not really feeling super great about any of these guys, or if I am feeling great about them, I've got a ton of shares of them already. And so it's like, I don't want to overexpose myself to some of these later round running backs. So it's like, is there anyone here that I can feel good about grabbing here? You know what? Just in case the Isaac Brown stuff goes south, we'll just see what happens with Keyjuan Brown, and we'll roll with that pick. It's not my favorite pick, because again, I really wanted Martin there, even though I've got a ton of shares of Martin. I do think Martin's probably one of the few backs on the board that has legit 1,300 yard upside at this point. So great pick by Anderson there. But McClure, you want a McClure?
Yes. He was the guy that I think he could be the guy that steps into that the role. He's one of the favorites of that, I think, or arguably the favorite to step into that Danny Scudero.
There's
be the next Danny Scudero this year.
There's a lot of love in the CFF community regarding Anthony Ivy, and I think I asked Josh Chevy on the Kings Classic live stream. I was like, "Where's this coming from?" Because I legit have not seen any of this hype come from like actual reports or anything. I think some people kind of get lost in the sauce of like, "Hey, Anthony Ivy is a former 4-star wide receiver," and it's like, okay, yeah, that's fair, but he's also not done anything for 3 years in college, so clearly there's something up there. There goes Middlebrook off the board. Silver's a great pick here in the 20th round. I only didn't take him because I've just got so many shares of him, but he's fallen down quite a bit recently.
Yeah, and I'm also I still think about Hammond. I think Hammond's going to be better than people think. I mean, there's the risk. I think you're worried about his mobility coming back. I just think with that, just coming back from that injury, but just being in that offense, and he is mobile enough that even coming back from it, I think he's getting underdrafted at this point. And
ain't no way they're gonna run him. You see how much they were freaking out about the idea of even having to like rely on him starting, dude. Like they're not gonna risk that. They are not gonna risk that at all. They got three stud running backs, bro. You got Dickey, you got Joyner.
Williams is moving out some in the slot, but like
oh my God, he's gonna lose like a third of his snaps, and it's gonna go to the other 2 stud running backs they have. Like there's no reason if I'm head coach of that program, there's zero reason why I would ever design a run for Hammond in that offense this year. Well, and again, bro's coming off a torn ACL. The last thing you want to do is add more mobility to where he could potentially re-tear that, especially with the accelerated schedule they're trying to kind of do here with him. Right? Like the idea of Hammond is Texas Tech's going to beat up on most of their schedule and he's going to throw 30 touchdowns. I think you can sell me on that. I'm not sold on the idea that you're going to see a ton of mobility, and we see it year after year. There's a great article. This is like, God, it was like maybe 5 years ago now it came out, and it was effectively like analyzing like quarterback rushing production, or really just quarterback production in general, but basically what the takeaway was that when quarterbacks tear their ACL, their passing numbers are usually fine the years afterwards. It's the rushing production that takes a hit, especially in that first year back. By the second year, they're kind of back to where they normally were, right? But that first year back, there's a monstrous drop in rushing production afterwards.
And I think there will be a drop. I just think he's going to give you positive rushing value. I have him at 411 rushing yards, 87 attempts, 6 touchdowns. Maybe that's a bit of, and that's only 10 games. We'll see. I might probably bump that down, but like in general, I still think you're not going to, like, Hammond isn't the best pocket passer in the world. I think you're going to have to realize that like we need to get him moving some to be able to make him as effective as he can be as a quarterback.
Let me be clear. I'm not saying he's going to be a negative rusher on this year, right? But like my projections got him at 232 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. So again, you get a couple goal line carries here and there. Like I said, I think they're going to try to limit it as much as they can. Like the only times he's running is when they're saying like, hey, if you see an open lane, take off.
Do you think he starts week 1? Do you think he's going to start week 1?
Hammond? Yeah, he'll start week 1. Again, they've been pretty clear on the fact that he'll start.
That's what I had the opinion, but I just didn't know if people were still hesitant on him starting week 1, or if it's just like what we're more worried about the injury, or if the people are not sure. Because I was also of the opinion, but there is like the quarterback, or not the quarterback, the head coach did say like in the meeting, like, yeah, be ready for Hammond to be ready week 1. So there was no reason to go out and say that unless you really believe that he's going to be ready week 1. So
no, I agree.
I agree. I'm of the opinion of him being ready week 1. But I just didn't know if that you had any concern about that at all. Still,
no, he'll be ready week 1. I'm fairly certain about that. I've got him projected for 12 games in my projections. So
yeah, and I could definitely see. You're definitely going to be starting out slow. Like in any game where they don't need anything, I definitely see, especially like early season, easier opponents, they're probably going to take it easy on him and like just try to rely on the running back. Some, as you said, that the running back room is probably the best running back room in the country. So on the whole, which kind of stinks because it's like you have three really good running backs, but you're not going to. They're all kind of siphoning some value away from each other, and it makes it a risky to go for any one in particular from fantasy purposes. But obviously, the riskiest, the more risk, the more potential reward if you're going up the board with like Dickey's probably got the highest ceiling of the bunch. Joyner, I don't know, between Joyner and Williams, you have, I guess it depends on format a little, but are you going Joyner over Williams at this point?
I think I've just zeroed in on Dickey mostly because I think his role is very defined. Do I think he's going to finish top 15 in running backs like he did last year? Probably not, just because again you have an extra element added to that room this year that you didn't have last year. I feel better about him now than I did with Brendan Sorsby, because Sorsby I was afraid of running for 500-600 yards and stealing 7-8 touchdowns. I don't feel that fear nearly as much with Hammond, and so I think Dickey will be one of the main beneficiaries of that. So I'm okay with drafting Dickey in my top 30 running backs again here. Although Unomas Pasole, I definitely mispronounced that. He says, heads up for Thomas Castellanos at Texas Tech, which I don't know if that would even really be that much of an improvement. Like Castellanos, like, I guess, it's better than having a hobbling Will Hammond out there. So, but in terms of passing the ball, like it'd be ripped to all those wide receivers.
It'll be interesting to see how this whole situation all turns out. Like, I don't know how quickly they could turn around getting Castellanos in there and being ready for the start of the season. Like, is he going to be able to, if he's...
That's my thing with all these like 50-year guys trying to come back and stuff like that. It's like we're talking full spring practices, we're talking full fall camps and everything. Unless they were a starter last year, like in that same system, you're not going to just get a guy in there and have him plugged in, ready to go week one.
Agreed.
All right, Chris, you took Overton and Curtis. Curtis, has been a name a lot of people are kind of throwing around recently, so I'll definitely want you to explain to the people who maybe haven't heard about Curtis, especially Sacramento State. I don't imagine a lot of our viewers have really dug into that. And then why Overton over Hawkins? Did Hawkins come off the board already?
Hawkins is already off the board.
Okay, Hawkins is already
off the board.
Okay.
Yes, he was gone a ways back. That's why he went in round 9. So
yeah.
So I'm Overton here I would not have taken him over Hawkins if
that was. So you're thinking that it's a Katron Allen Nicholas Singleton split there?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna take my boy here again. I was gonna say I am bigger into this offense than many people. So I'll get back to that in 1 second there, and I'll make this pick as well. We're in 23. I'm just trying to figure out which ones I want to take now, and hopefully the other ones. I need to take another tight end here. I have not taken one yet. What do I have?
Have you not taken a tight end yet? Oh my god! Oh,
no,
you got Jamari.
I have Jamari Johnson early. I just don't have the backups yet. I don't have any backups yet. So
dude, I got scared after a certain point where I was like looking at what was left, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take Flanagan here, and I'm just gonna call it at the tight end position. But you got Dorfley, you got Minnie. Wagner's a good one here late. So
yeah, I think Wagner. Sorry, I wanted to touch back before.
Yes.
Jamar Curtis in the G5 high. We're going for the Overton. We'll start with there. Marcellus Hawkins is a little bigger bodied. Kind of reminds me of like the Katron Allen, and then Jeff Overton's like more of like the Nicholas Singleton in the offense, where he's going to be the toolsy fast burst guy that can put up some big numbers on like smaller workloads. Just he doesn't have to be, and I think both of them are capable of being fantasy relevant guys, and I don't necessarily the backfields I've seen so far, they've kind of put them as the top two. Like it's those two and then everybody else. And so I really think in a James Franklin led offense, even if it's not even with Andy Kotelnicki over back at Kansas, they're still going to run the ball a lot. And this Virginia Tech team, I think by Vegas, has the biggest jump in expected win total over last year of like any team in the country. So let me double. No, they're third. Sorry, Oklahoma State is first.
Yeah,
Liberty
gotcha.
second, and then Virginia Tech third. They're up to like 6.6 wins, which is almost at where Penn State was last year, like in terms of their. So I think that this is an offense that's going to run the ball more than the receiver room is okay, but it's not like standout amazing or anything. And these two running backs, I believe, are both very like they're stand above a notch above anyone else in the room, and probably maybe the strength of the team or strength of the offense. So in my opinion, so I think that you're going to see a lot of these two on Saturdays. And then, sorry, quickly just touch on Curtis.
Yes.
He was the name that in the G5 Hive podcast specifically, I don't know if you saw that one, but the beat writer in that one was very emphatic. Like, this is the name in the offense you need to know. He's going to be the workhorse for Sacramento State this year. And I believe I'm trying to remember. I think he's the one that he transferred over, or no, has he been there, or is he the one that transferred over with the head coach? I'm trying to remember.
I think he transferred over with the head coach. I think I remember that being part of the discussion.
Okay. Yeah. So well, it looks like he was there in 2025, but at Sacramento State, but he was the year before. He's shown that he's capable of handling, even though he is a little small at 5'8", 169, but he has shown that he's capable at Lafayette of handling a significant workload. He had 234 carries and 229 carries. So I'm not super concerned about the durability necessarily. I mean,
he seems like he's pretty okay.
Yeah, it seems like he can handle it. So he's definitely has a history of doing that. So he's a veteran, and from everything I've heard, or with the G5 Hive specifically, the beat writer, certain ones sound more knowledgeable than others, and this guy really, the beat writer for Sacramento State, like, he sounded like a guy who's been to a number of practices and has seen it, and it was like, this guy is going to be, I think he was mentioned as the breakout offensive player for their team this year. So that's one reason I've been having him there. You do have to take into account that Sacramento State is going to have 2 bye weeks on the schedule as well. So they're one of those teams that does have a week 0 game. So that is something you have to take into account. But like on a per week basis, that's the guy that I think is going to maybe outproduce his current draft position.
No, I agree with you. He's somebody I've been bad. I haven't added in my rankings yet, and quite frankly, I need to. Couple comments on my picks here. I took Cornice in the 22nd round, and Human Ziggy in the chat says, like, oh, there's the Cornice pick. Brother, if you're going to let him get to me in the 22nd round, and I'm potentially looking at the next Jason Candle RB1, I'm going to take that shot every single time. I don't care how many shares I got of him. And then Anderson says, Jared, why? Malachi Singleton's my second most confident flag plant. Buddy, I'm right there with you. We'll discuss your take on him tomorrow, and I'm right there with you on the upside of Malachi Singleton in that offense down there at App State. I think he could end up being... I'm thinking about writing an article that's like tomorrow's waiver wire picks today, because already Fantrax has put up on their website like the rostership numbers, and so obviously I look at under 30%, and so I thought about kind of looking at what players are rostered under 30% at this point in the offseason, and I saw that Singleton's under 30% right now, and I'm like, he probably ends up being a waiver wire pick week 1. Or actually, who does App State play week 1? All right, let me see. App State schedule. They play Maine. He will be a waiver wire pickup after week 1. I can almost guarantee. Unless that App State offense just completely craps the bed, he will be a waiver wire pickup week 1. He could end up going for 5 touchdowns in that game. Because, again, App State has no incentive to rest their starters by halftime. They'll run up the score wherever they can.
Yeah, and they mentioned that they're definitely trending toward that dual threat. They wanted that dual threat quarterback under center this year, and so Singleton's going to be running a lot back there this year, and I think that's going to be an interesting play. I am going to look I'm intending to do some articles with like strength of schedule, like early season, like, hey,
Yeah.
here's some good early season strength of schedule things. That's something to be on the lookout for. Like, here are the good early season strength of schedules. Here are the teams like maybe want to fade with the early, like especially late in drafts. That's something worth considering specifically is like, where are these players that I can use right at the beginning of the season, then I can just drop them later on in formats where you do have roster moves. Obviously, you can't do that.
Yeah.
In a best ball draft. But
Mike points it out. Oh no, Lofted! I was hoping to get that stack on the way back here, but that's on me. I probably should have taken him over McEwen, but you know I got enough Lofton shares. But Mike points it out in the chat. Singleton's first 3 games here: Maine, East Carolina, Charlotte. That's a pretty dang good start for a G6 team right there.
Yeah, I mean, you got East Carolina is obviously a better team, but the offense, the tempo in that game is going to be insane. So I think that'll be beneficial for them. There's going to be having to score to keep up, and obviously Maine FCS. So yeah, as you're saying, it's a pretty nice little soft landing spot to begin the season for sure.
Taking a look at what we got here. I've got as per usual with these drafts, I got a bunch of wide receivers in my ranking and just taking shots on different guys here. Probably do a mix of better not take your other quarterback. Now I want to try, Anderson. Now I want to try to take your other quarterback. Get a little back at you guys for stealing all my guys in these drafts. Let's see. Wide receiver. Oh yeah, let me add you in there as well. Because Brian Rowe is one of the guys I was looking at. I'm sure Mike will take one of my guys here. Yeah, starting to thin out a little bit at all the positions. We got 5 rounds to go after this, so what's your roster makeup right now? Oh, DR Rogers. That's not the wide receiver I was looking at, but definitely one that I was considering. I'm gonna go with my 6th and last quarterback here. I'm gonna go McKay Hillstead out of Utah State. Is that your quarterback, Anderson? I guess I'll find out with your next 2 picks. Nope, McKenzie. Oh, I was never gonna take Mackenzie Anderson. You didn't have to worry about that one bit.
I think I saw a report that some of his there were some accuracy concerns at a recent practice with him.
No, duh. He was a rush first quarterback. All right. Wide receiver. I think I just got to start taking shots here. Probably go for some guys that I haven't. Well, actually, no. Tristan Gardner. I haven't been able to get a share of him in a while, so I'll go ahead and grab him. But yeah, wide receiver now. I'll just load up my queue and just grab probably about 3 out of 10 guys that I could throw around here. Sorry,
I was looking at. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna. You're expecting Castellano production this year in that system, Anderson. You have to remember that Bill O'Brien killed Castellanos in that system. This is like the production you're thinking of is the year before Bill O'Brien got there. Like, he killed Castellanos. That was bad. Like, he doesn't know how to use a dual threat quarterback. That's why I'm so concerned about McKenzie. Like, yes,
he's a pro style quarterback or pro style coach. I mean,
exactly. He tried to turn Castellanos into a pro style quarterback, and it's just like that's not what Castellanos is in the slightest. Because what was Castellanos? I forget. Like, after the draft, wasn't he like trying out a tight end or something like that?
I don't remember. I don't remember seeing. I haven't followed that as closely as post NFL, but I wouldn't be shocked because it doesn't necessarily fit well as a quarterback at the next level for sure. So I'm not 100% sure about that, but yeah.
Anyway, Chris, I meant to ask you, what's your roster construction at this point? We got 5 rounds left to go, so kind of what are you looking for in these last 5 rounds?
Yeah, so I was looking at I think I've shored up my running backs a little bit, but I was looking at my wide receiver room and noticing I have 2 week 6 buys and 3 week 6 buys and 3 week 8 buys. So I'm feeling like I'm going to have to add receivers, and I know the week 6 is actually a very tough bye week to find other guys, and some of the guys that I'm actually looking at are in the same bye week. A lot of the guys that I really want are in the same bye week, so it's tough to figure out who I want to slot in here. So that's one thing I did not pay close enough attention to early on to where I need to now just kind of fill the cracks with necessarily the players at the top of my board all the way, but guys that I think are going to be like decent contributors. I think I like BYU's offense here, so I think I'll take a chance with Kyler Casper, and I like Bear Bachmeier. I think they're going to throw enough this year that I'm getting the quick turn every single time here because we're auto picking at the corner, so I'm just like up and up right away.
Yep.
So let's see. I really I'm going to take my shot, even though it is a week 8 guy. I'm going to go with Trayshawn Hurry here. I think he might be the outside guy opposite. That there was a question about who's going to, I think Trey Richardson is clear number 1 in that offense. Yeah. And then unless I misread it, I'm pretty sure Trayshawn Hurry was the other guy that I saw was like, really impressed at a practice.
It's recently. Hurry, Richardson, and McCoy are your 3 starting wide receivers.
Yeah. And I think it was Hurry that was mentioned specifically as like, this guy looks like the real deal alongside him at a practice very recently. And obviously, and McCoy, I saw that he had a very strong spring as well. Like he had a really good spring game, I think. So that was the one that later on he could be a nice little sleeper pick if you want to really go against the grain and take a chance. I think McCoy is not a terrible like late round pick if you're trying to throw a dart, because obviously somebody in that Louisville offense is going to put up big numbers at the wide receiver position.
So I will say this: Felix Sharp over at Campus Canton here, he's been at all the Louisville practices that they've had open, and he just flat out said in our Discord that Trey Richardson's the only wide receiver that he would consider drafting.
Okay. Interesting.
All right.
Interesting. I was just sorry. I just noticed I just noticed a report. That's what I was saying, that the Hurry had impressed a beat writer in the last day. Like they both looked really good. So
no, again, I don't blame you taking the shot here, because at this point, like with Hurry, you're playing system, right? It's typically been the outside wide receiver. Yes. So if Richardson goes down or for whatever reason, Hurry's probably your next up guy there. It's just a matter of can Keenholz take advantage of that. I'm going to continue my shots at wide receiver here. I'm going to go Rayshawn Jones. We talked about him earlier, the true freshman there at Boise State. This is my wide receiver 9. If the hype is as strong as, or if the hype is even remotely close to real, he's going to be well worth the pick here late. And then Mario Sanders was a guy that I was about to take there, Anderson, but I won't be getting a share this time, I guess. So I'll go different wide receiver here. I'll go for a wide receiver on a team that was not very good last year. In fact, they were actually downright atrocious. I'm not sure it's going to be that much better, but I'll play Phil Longo's slot here. I'll go Grady O'Neal at Sam Houston and just see if that offense gets even somewhat better. It feels like O'Neal is probably the guy that'll benefit the most, at least in that receiver room. Obviously, Coco Brown came off the board there at 27-8 there. That's a good pick this late in the draft, but again, I'm trying to spread out my wide receiver shares in the second half of drafts right now. Devin McEwen's another guy that now that's pretty solidified that he'll be starting for Ohio State, it sounds like, in that other outside spot. That's been pretty solid for us over the years. I doubt he'll get like Carnell Tate levels, but we'll see if he can get me 700 yards throughout the season. You sounded disappointed with that one, Chris.
No, sorry. This was early. I was looking in the queue and noticed that Joe Arapasi took Malachi Riley a couple rounds ago. I was like, if I that's the guy that he was a starter last year for San Jose State. And that's like, if I don't get Jerry McClure, Malachi, I know that he's not necessarily guaranteed a starting job, but he was a starter last year before he got hurt in the opener. And I had him in the queue earlier, and I think I just missed that he went off the board, and it's like, oh, I got to search up Malachi Riley, and I looked and it was not available. So that was just another name that I think if it's not Jerry McClure, I mean, if it's not Jerry McClure, that would be the guy that I personally would target at San Jose State as like the second option if you're looking for a later round investment into that offense at wide receiver.
Sorry, I'm doing a quick bit of research on a player I'm thinking about taking here at my next pick. I just got to make sure that I have my case built for him. All right. All my friends are playing Steam all of a sudden. I'm getting like Steam notifications out the wazoo over here.
I'm just trying to. I did not plan it out well enough to where I have a lot of like my best targets at the end of this draft are all like week 6 and 8 buys, and I already have just loaded at those positions, so it leaves me in a tough spot. I guess I know people are on Chris Henry, but Innis is still. I just need something with a bye week that's different, and I think Innis is still that number 2 in this offense. At least I know McEwen's there, so maybe he surpasses him. And I think Henry's going to be behind McEwen personally, just what I've seen. It seems like it's going to be a Innis. It's going to be Smith, Innis, and McEwen are my.
They're not going to put Henry in that slot. He's 6'2". He's a big boy. He ain't gonna. I guess. I mean,
I just meant like I think
Innis is a big boy too. Actually, now that I think about it, but.
Yeah, I just think that I was just mentioning. I think that McEwen is going to be the starter over Henry at least to begin the year. We'll see how it goes, but that's from what I'm seeing so far. It seems like McEwen's trending that direction, and it's not to say that that like Henry's going to be one of the top sort of like Devy kind of picks, but I'm not necessarily high on him putting out a big season as a true freshman this year, but definitely worth a flyer here and there if you're wanting to take a chance on a guy with a lot of talent in a high upside offense. So I don't blame anyone for taking a shot on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a guy that, even though it doesn't fit the bye week super well, I just want to take him just because it's going to cost me my $5 probably, but I was high on him last year, and he's moving to an offense in the Big 12.
Good pick.
Giovanni Gibson. I think he's going to be. I think he caught 3 touchdowns in their spring game.
He did,
and I think he's a guy that was impressing at Oklahoma last year before he got hurt, and he hurt his leg, and he kind of came back during the season and just never really. They kind of already had like a rotation set, and he kind of never really got in there. But I think this year going to Cincinnati, they added J.C. French from Georgia Southern, and I think this year he could prove to be that alpha one or that alpha wide receiver in this offense, and I'm willing to take a bet on him this late in the draft, especially that you can get somebody that is the number 1 in their offense. And yeah, that's especially at this point in the draft. And there's another guy I really like that I'm not going to be able to take too. I got to double check my roster months here. I think I need another.
I will say this. We do know that J.C. French is more than happy to feed his number 1 wide receiver. We just saw Camden Brown, 105 targets last year, 1,088 yards and 14 touchdowns. So if Giovanni Gibson can even get close to that, then this is an excellent pick here in the 29th round. He was definitely one I was considering here on this last, 29-30 turn here, but you stole him from me.
I haven't done a ton of these 30 round drafts in general here. I'm just interested to know, like, generally speaking, what do you do for your roster construction in these third? Do you go 6 quarterbacks?
I typically go 6 quarterbacks, with like the last 2 tending to be more upside picks. I try to be a bit safer at quarterback early on, and then the last 2, it's like, okay, I think these guys have top 20 upside. And then, I typically go 10 running back, at least 10 wide receivers, and then it's like tight end. It's like 3 or 4 depending on how good I feel about the players. This one was a pure 3 tight end. There was no value dropping at tight end, so I'm like, all right, I'll grab 3 guys and I'll just stick with those. Although I should probably check to make sure I'm not screwing myself on the bye weeks. No, we're good. 7, 8, and 9 on bye weeks, so we're good there. I'm going to go running back here. I'll take my last running back with PJ Martin out of South Alabama. a lot of people are in on Keenan Phillips, and I understand on some level, but Patrick Martin's definitely the guy that's more built like your typical workhorse back for that South Alabama offense. Phillips is a little bit smaller guy. I think he's like 185 pounds, less than 6 foot. And then if you look at Martin, he's had some injury concern over the last couple of years for sure. But if you look at his stats, like he's averaged 5.8 yards per attempt in his career so far. He's averaged over 4 yards after contact per attempt. His breakaway percentage is a solid 35.8%. If he could just stay healthy, that'll be huge. Now I got to take my last wide receiver. I'm going to take an 11th wide receiver here. I think I'm going to go Tony Freeman here out of Washington State. Once again, kind of spreading out some of my shares that I have here in the later rounds. Freeman's not a guy I've taken a ton of recently, but we're just playing system here. Kirby Moore is now the head coach over there at Washington State. We have seen with Kirby Moore over the years that he tends to favor the slot wide receivers. Good news, Wazoo's lead returning wide receiver from last year is Tony Freeman. He plays in the slot. It sounds like that they are planning on incorporating him well into that offense this year. We'll see what the quarterback situation is able to get us there, but I think, just playing for a system in this really my last two picks were just playing system at wide receiver and just hoping that these guys are good enough to earn what previous wide receivers have gotten in those systems. I do like the double tap there. Gundy with the two Nebraska wide receivers. That's definitely a fun double tap to do here right at the very end. All right, Chris, you got your last pick up here. What are you looking at? You went 4 wide receivers in a row to end. Are you going to go 5?
Yeah, I'm going. No, I know. I'm going to actually, I just saw a guy in the running back room that I kind of want to take a chance on late in this draft just because I think there's upside in this room that nobody's touching yet, that it hasn't been touched yet. We'll see. I'm assuming this won't be touched here because he's not really getting drafted too frequently. But I'm probably just, even though I'm going to leave myself with 5 quarterbacks and not get to 6, I just feel like, especially with that the Bennett flub earlier, I want to shore up that position and just give myself extra bites at the apple there, especially because I feel like I have a pretty strong foundation of quarterbacks anyway. So I'm going to take another shot at running back here to close it out.
Ziggy's guessing Flora here.
What's that? No.
Cobb?
No.
Question mark?
I looked at Cobb. I did look at Cobb, and this is probably this is even riskier play than that, but we'll see. I'm gonna go with Christian Lando at Jacksonville State. I think that the mention was that I know that this could end up being more of a committee room there, and that would be the risk, but just the Jacksonville State running back, if he ends up being like, I know there's not going to probably be a Cam Cook level, but you don't have to be Cam Cook level in the 30th round. No. And you're getting the Jacksonville State running back here. And he's the one, if anybody is going to produce enough to warrant that kind of production at the, to warrant a draft pick here. That's the guy that I would take a chance on this late in the draft. And honestly, it's just a flyer shot in the dark, but I just saw the name. I was looking through the queue and I saw the name there and I was like, I like the system that he's going in. And I like that. I feel like he's the best chance at leading that running back room if you're going to have somebody to do it. So.
Yeah, my issue with the Jacksonville State running back room has been every beat reporter or any interview that I listen to, it feels like a different name is being brought up, right? It's like Lando, it's Savage, it's Jalen Likely, it's the freshman Cedric Kwame, it's like Andrew Paul is still in that room technically, right? So it's like there's like 5 different names that are being thrown out there, and I've just kind of at this point thrown my hands up and said whoever it is going to be a waiver pick week 1, just straight up. We
don't have that option in a best ball format. In a best ball, you're drafting for the season.
But in a best ball format, to me, I'm avoiding that room, even though the upside's immense because the odds of it being just a 0 is so strong as well. And that's what I really try to avoid in best ball leagues a lot of times, is trying to avoid the guys that are just going to be dead space on your roster throughout the season. Because you were talking about earlier with taking 2 running backs in the same room. if one of them's a workhorse and then one of them's not, that whoever's not is going to be a dead spot on your roster.
And that's why I won't take two in the same room, but I'm willing to take like shots on, like, especially the last round of a draft.
Oh yeah.
I'll take a shot on a guy that I think, like you're saying, there is immense upside in this room somewhere. So I know that I think, like you're saying, like Cobb was probably like the safe pick, but I'm just taking a shot in the dark at a guy that I think, like you're saying, there is a high risk of who will be the starter in Jacksonville State's backfield. But I guess that was the guy that I was listening to the G5 Hive more than anything, is just listening to what they had to say. But obviously there's not as many reports on some of these smaller schools. So there is a definite risk depending on at taking that running back. But I'm just, like you said, the upside is what I go for late in drafts, because if he does hit and he becomes the RB1, then I'm getting potentially top 10 running back, top 10 round running back or whatever in the last round of the draft. So that was my reasoning for taking a chance on that there.
I'm not saying this is a bad pick at all. To make sure I said
it's risky. It's risky,
but it's a 30th round pick. Like why even worry about the risk at this point?
Well, and that was the other thing, is the benches are deep. The benches are super deep in this. So like, I'm going to have throwaway picks somewhere anyway. So I might as well just take a shot at, like, some of these guys are not going to see the field very often at all, or see your starting lineup very often, I should say. So let me just take a shot on a guy that could see the starting lineup regularly if he wins the job. That's my rationale behind going for the high upside, like throw a shot in the dark situation.
Nothing wrong at all with taking the guy that was RB2 last year and just expecting that he could be RB1 this year, right? Like, it's not, again, if it ends up being Jalen Likely, I'm going to throw my hands up, because only Phil Steele has said that name, and I was just like, I don't know.
I saw that as well, and I was like, I initially, because we don't have a lot of like reporting before, so before the G5 Hive comes out, Phil Steele's part of what I look at, because I try to look up for any information you can find, and Likely had like a pretty good, he scored a touchdown, I think, in the spring game or something. He had a decent spring showing. I think he was the only one that scored a touchdown or something in the spring game. So that might have influenced Steele's listing as well. And I just, so that was initially, but then when that, the G5 Hive podcast came out, and that was listed, or that they mentioned Christian Lando as the guy that seemed most likely, that was what led me to kind of pivot a little more to, and I did question the Likely being number one or whatever in the offense. I don't know. It just seems like that would be, I'm going on probabilities. And for me, I'd take the chance of the guy who was the number 2 last year, is a veteran in this offense, and has that good opportunity to step up into that role.
All righty, Chris, one thing I'd like to do before we finish off these streams, obviously this draft just did 360 picks, 360 players that come off the board here. And the great thing about college fantasy is every time there's great players still on the board, because there's just so many dang teams. So we'll start with quarterbacks. Who are some guys that you were either surprised didn't come off the board, or you are saying should have come off the board, or should be coming off the board in a 30-round draft?
I get going from the top down. What do I got projections here? I would say I think there's a little risk here with Nick Paulos, but I think he's a guy that if he's in that role, he's still going to be he's going to run in a 4-point passing touchdown league where he's going to run, score on the ground. I think he's got some upside in that offense. So I guess that would be one guy that if I was like picking another quarterback toward the end of the draft, that would be a name I would consider to take. So I don't know if you're looking for multiple, but like that looking down the board,
Mike called out Aaron Philo here, and I tend to agree with him as well. Like, that's probably one of the safer floor play quarterbacks you can put out there. I mean, your projections looks like I have him at 18 touchdowns. I think you could end up with more if all 3 of his wide receivers are healthy this year, between Singleton, Dallas Wilson, and Vernell Brown. Like, that might be one of the most dangerous.
Very talented receiver.
I would say that's one of the most dangerous wide receiver trios in the country. Philo doesn't even need to be that good in order to benefit from that. Now, we're kind of burying the lead here. Technically, Philo's still in a competition with Tramel Jones. They just confirmed that today, that they are still battling it out there. So if you're queasy about that, I don't fully blame you. But yeah, he's one that I would definitely point out there. KJ Jackson's been a guy that I have been saying like probably should be coming off the board in a 30-round draft. Again, he's got dual threat ability. Ryan Silverfield, we just saw made oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. What was the quarterback for Memphis last year?
Brendan Lewis.
We just saw Brendan Lewis be a top 20 quarterback last year. And so, like, again, obviously it is, SEC, so there's going to be a little bit of that. But KJ Jackson's already played at this level already, so he's kind of familiar with the pace of play already. I think that he should be coming off the board. Lincoln Kienholz, if he is the starter for Louisville, again, one thing that Felix Sharp has confirmed at the practices, QB run will be a much bigger part of that Louisville offense this year. And if Kienholz is benefiting from that, again, a dual threat quarterback in the ACC should always be coming off the board, in my opinion, in one of these drafts. Anybody else stick out to you, Chris?
Yeah, I was looking through. I think Zion Chris is a little interesting to me. I think he's a big dual threat guy. He's not necessarily guaranteed the job. He's also in a quarterback battle, but I feel like he's going to be the guy for Tulane, and they're going to run him a lot. Will Hall's offense. It's going to be an up-tempo offense, and he's going to run. So it's not going to be the same level of efficiency. Like, that offense isn't going to be as good. Clearly, they're not going to be. They're not playoff bound this year. We'll say that much. But I just think there is some upside there with his rushing ability. We've seen it in the past. So I think that it's like in a format where it's only 4-point passing touchdowns. I think that there's some upside on the ground with Chris there.
My concern with Chris is the fact that Will Hall's offenses when he was at Southern Miss were each outside of the top 100 in all 3 years that he was the head coach there. I'm good. I don't know if that gets much better, even at a school like Tulane.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think he's like Zion Chris specifically. I'm not saying that he's a great talent necessarily, but I just think that the scheme that they're going to run is going to be up tempo, and they're going to run a lot, and he's going to be asked to run a lot. Mm-hmm. And he ran for 388 yards and 4 touchdowns a couple years ago at Houston. That was only in 10 games. Yeah, he's got the ability. And he ran for 492 yards at Lafayette in 2023 as well. Mm-hmm. So Zion Chris has that ability. Speaking of that, his last name is actually now Chris Gramillion. I don't know if you've
that is true, but I don't have the. It is almost past 10 o'clock at night, and I don't have the brain cells to spell out a name fully like that.
It's no. It's just an interesting. It's just an interesting tidbit that he's adding on such a long last name to his second name, or his last name. But anyway, yeah. So he's a guy that I still think there's rushing potential upside there, and in a 6-point passing touchdown league, not considering him at all. But at this late in the draft, if you're looking for a guy with some dual threat ability and a decent team context, I think Destin Hill, Anthony Brown-Stevens are both pretty solid 1-2 for the American level. And you have Jamari McClure in the backfield. So I think this offense can move it. And I've heard good things about Ty Thompson at tight end as well. Like, I think he was potentially going to be a contributor last year, but he got hurt. Mm-hmm. And this year he's going to be their number 1 tight end, I think. And I think there's enough pieces there to like be a competent offense. And Chris Gramillion Zion Chris is going to be a strong ground presence, at least in that offense this year. So that was one reason I think he could be a sneaky pick late if you really, at least in my opinion. I know you're not the same opinions, but we're allowed different opinions. I guess,
we are.
Right? So,
we actually know you're not, Chris. So please leave stage left. I'm joking. Running backs. As kind of anticipated in these drafts. There's not really a ton of guys that I'm surprised are still left on the board. At running back, I think we have a pretty good pulse on for the most part in the CFF community. Now, again, some of these guys will pop off because that's just the nature of the game. But probably the two that stand out to me the most, one, Jaden Lamar out of Washington. I know that he missed all of spring, but they were talking about bringing him in and him being probably their main guy. Maybe not Jonah Coleman levels, but like the beat reporters were saying, like, yeah, he was brought in to be the guy. And yes, he missed all of spring, but now he's healthy for the fall here. I think we've written him off too quickly. I know Quade Carr got all the reps with, first team in the spring, and, he's still getting reps here in the fall, but I think Lamar will quickly reclaim that job there, because Carr was a name that nobody was talking about even before the offseason. Again, I get if you bump Lamar down in your rankings, but for him to go fully undrafted here, I think is a little bit of overreaction on our part as a community. And then the other one that sticks out to me is Cornell Hatcher out of Oregon State. I don't really know what to expect out of that offense, but I feel pretty good on the idea that Hatcher will be the RB1 for that system, and just getting any kind of RB1, round 30 plus, I think is really solid. I just also realized Michael Ford came off in the 30th round here. That's a really solid pick by Bainbridge right there. Chris, any thoughts on those two guys?
So Hatcher, yes. So that offense I think is going to be a lot more predicated. Like, there's going to be a lot more passing involved in that offense this year, but I think that Hatcher, from what I've heard, everything I've heard of it seems like it's Hatcher and I believe Newberry. Is that Newberry from Vanderbilt? Mm-hmm. So I think those are the top two. They're top two there, and I think that they've kind of separated Hatcher as the guy to take over that role, though. Like from what I have seen, that like Hatcher is probably going to be the guy there, and I don't hate it. Like, you're looking for RB1 late, he's probably going to be, or he will probably be the guy there. And I can't. Who is the other one that you mentioned?
Jaden Lamar.
Oh, I actually took Quade Carr in this one earlier. Because there was actually a report.
This is not a shot across the bow at you.
I took it earlier. There was a report very recently. The head coach actually came out and said, like, we're running Quade Carr with the ones this fall. Like, he's starting fall camp as the one, even with Lamar back in the fold. That they were running
in
Quade
the
Carr
same
out there
way that Isaiah West is with the ones in Ohio State.
Except that Bo Jackson has been the one. Like, Bo Jackson was the one and established as
I'm
the
just
one
saying,
last
I
year.
wouldn't be surprised by the end of fall if Lamar's got this job back. Like, you're not just going to hand
Isaiah
him the
West,
job.
I think, could carve out a reasonably sizable role. I mean, I know he was fourth on the depth chart last year at Ohio State, so it's not. I'm not saying he's going to be like 1A, 1B, but that's what reporters are.
He'll be the clear number two. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a clear number two there. I just, but yeah, like you're saying, that I think I feel a little stronger about Bo Jackson than saying Jaden Lamar, who doesn't have. I was taking Jaden Lamar in the offseason, to be clear. Like, that was the guy that I had projected and have projected, but just the way that just the fact that it's starting off early camp with Lamar healthy and Quade Carr is now still leading the room. The fact that Lamar doesn't have like an established role as a starter at any point in his career yet just doesn't lead me to like feel confident that Lamar is the guy. But like you're saying, in a 30-round draft where you have a chance to get a guy who could put up big numbers, he probably should be going off the board at some point in the draft. Yeah, but that's what you're getting at. So I agree with that's like taking a shot at the backfield. That's what I just wasn't going to take both Quade Carr and Jaden Lamar because I'm not that kind of drafter. So.
I would say, you're anti-drafting two guys from the same backfield. So any running backs stand out to you in terms of who should have come off the board?
I had, let me double check here let me look again at who I was doing. It was crap. Why am I blanking on? I had a name here that let me look at the fantasy points again. I think no, I wouldn't say Anthony Woods necessarily need to be drafted. but I will say that I heard some reports that Anthony Woods is. I know Wayne Knight is probably the guy there, but like if you're looking for a shot guy, very late, I've seen reports in spring that Anthony Woods is looking good.
I mean, he's pretty much in the same boat as what Wade Carr's in right now, where it's like, yeah, he got RB1 role in the spring. Now he's got RB1 role in the fall as well. It's like, well, we got to start listening at some point.
Yeah. So, I mean, that I might be that one I'm just throwing out there as like a name to just keep an eye on, I guess, more than anything. I wouldn't necessarily say draft him at that point in the draft. I mean, Vic Listorti, I think, is going to be the guy at Navy. So that's interesting. And in that triple option offense. But yeah, that, like you're saying, there isn't a ton of intriguing names that are this late in the draft. There was a name that I mean, obviously like Cobb, I think is still probably the number one back for Auburn, who was brought up earlier.
Yeah.
That I think he'll probably be the number one back for Auburn and in that high speed offense. Obviously I know they like to move the running backs in and out of there a lot with how much pace they run with. So there's a risk that you're not getting the full benefit of that. Another guy that I was mentioning, Matthew Fuller. I feel like the South Carolina offense would be a little better this year.
Yeah.
And under the new offensive coordinator, and from what Fuller was the MVP of spring. I think he's going to be their number one guy there. And if the offense turns out to be a little better than what's expected of him, I feel like he could be a guy that could outproduce what is being. I mean, he's not really being drafted too much, but I feel like he's a guy that you could be looking back at. Like I probably should have drafted him in the late round of a draft. He is, to me, is like another number one guy that you could look at a little bit.
No, Clark was the guy I was thinking about bringing up here, so that's a really good call. Last guy I'll bring up here real quick is Terrence Shelton out of Buffalo. I mean, we've been looking at this Buffalo offense for the last couple of years, been drafting running backs out of there forever. And this year it feels like nobody wants to take a shot on that backfield. And to me, at least right now, Shelton seems like the clear next guy up there. So it's like, why are we not taking more shots on him there?
I was going to mention him as well. Yes, I agree.
Wide receiver. I'll be real. I'm like looking at the list. There's not too many people I'm sitting here being like, this guy has to be coming off the board in 30-round drafts. I mean, wide receiver already, especially late round. It's like you're just taking shots in different rooms. Probably the guys that stand out to me are Justin Bowick out of Oklahoma State. I think he will play a pivotal role as like a big outside option there. Troy O'Mary out of New Mexico. Obviously, he's hurt again, but like if things pop off there, he'll benefit. Although I think Jack Lane now, the quarterback's hurt, so like that offense just could be a complete mess. Amari Hatcher out of Syracuse has been a guy I've been drafting towards the end of drafts. Somebody's got to catch the ball there at Syracuse. We think they're going to throw 40 times a game. Somebody's got to be on the receiving end of that. Other guy, Preston Bowman out of Ohio. Again, you got to be taking shots on that Ohio wide receiver room. Ty Mims out of UAB. He'll be playing in that slot role there at UAB. I think he could have himself a really nice senior year here. And then anybody else? I've been taking some shots on Jalen Mickens recently at Louisiana Tech. Those wide receiver ones at Louisiana Tech have very quietly been productive over the years. So if they get that offense rolling, I'll want the wide receiver one there. And then Ziggy said in the chat, Javon Tracy. Yeah, Javon Tracy or Jalen Smith, whichever one he thinks can be the Minnesota wide receiver one, probably worth a shot in drafts. What about you, Chris? Any thoughts on those guys, or what wide receivers are you looking at here that should have been drafted?
I was just going to mention a couple that I think could be drafted, and not many people necessarily agree with this, but like I am very high on that Baylor wide receiver room just in general because of the system that system. They already mentioned Draylon Miller as potentially being like the next. Wow, why am I blanking? Who is the Josh Cameron? Being like potentially the Josh Cameron of this offense, and I still think Lewis Brown is also another option there. And so DJ Lagway comes over, down year last year, but they faced one of the toughest schedules in the country last year at Florida, and that is I know that they had a strong wide receiver room there, but you look at the system last year and the players that came out of Baylor, Michael, or why do I keep saying Josh Cameron went 6th round.
Yep.
In the NFL draft. Michael Trigg went undrafted. Sawyer Robertson went undrafted. Like these players that are coming out of the system, clearly the NFL isn't saying they're like star level NFL caliber talent. And you're adding these players, they're taking those positions. And I don't think the tight end rooms, like Steve mentioned to me that you said Klopfenstein was the guy at tight end that went to media days, right? So the tight end position, I'm not necessarily expecting anywhere near Michael Trigg.
No, that was crazy.
Either of those guys. So I'm not expecting any sort of big production out of that, but I think this wide receiver room can put up some big numbers in this system. So that's why I've got them projected pretty highly, because it just the where you're projecting the amount of plays per game they're going to run. And I think Lagway moving to the Big 12 it's going to be a shot in the arm for him.
Agreed.
To do that. And I think that we should be looking at some of his wide receivers that are going to go along with it, because they're going to throw the ball a lot, and those receivers are going undrafted or very late rounds. So that's why I think that's one spot. And then the other one I was going to mention was I think Oregon State's also going to throw the ball a lot more this year.
Mm-hmm.
The new coaching staff, that was thing that was mentioned, they're going to be more throwing the football, and that fits well with their quarterback under center. Obviously, I'm not sure why I'm.
Blake Murphy?
Why am I blanking on? Yes, he's a statue. He can only throw. He's not running.
Throw in air quotes.
Yeah. Well, I just mean it fits him. He can't run. He's not a runner.
Yeah.
But they're going to throw the ball. What they said is they're going to do a lot of, I think, shorter passes, like completable, easier passes, and it's going to be a lot of them.
So who do you draft there? That's my question.
From what I've gathered, I think Aaron Butler is the name that has been thrown out there most as like the number one, because he has like a strong pedigree coming out of high school.
Yeah, he's a former 4-star player, went to Texas, fell out of that room. Makes sense that going to a place like Oregon State, a bit lower in competition, should probably help him a bit.
Yeah, so that's why if you I just have seen that that offense is going to throw it more this year, and I know it's a question mark how good Oregon State's going to be. They're not going to be a great offense, but you're taking Cornell Hatcher. This offense is going to have more plays per game, and they're going to be throwing it more because they're going to be trailing in a lot of these games. And I know maybe we're not that high on Malik Murphy, but he's down at a level where I think he can compete well enough to put up some numbers there at Oregon State this season. And Aaron Butler, I mean, there aren't a lot of established names here, so I think there's room for somebody to break out, especially. And Aaron Butler is the name I've heard the most so far. That's why I would say if I was going to pick anyone, it'd be him. Yeah.
I like to call out the Baylor wide receivers, although I disagree with which one to take, because you took, what was it, Draylen Miller here, 22nd round. Meanwhile, I like
Lewis Brown. I know.
I would say Lewis Brown and Gavin Freeman are the two I'd rather go. I'm just anti Draylen Miller. Ever since his Colorado days and everything, when he was getting hyped up by Colorado and their beat report, both his freshman year and his sophomore year, I'm just like, I don't see it. I just don't see it. Like, he's not that great of a wide receiver. Meanwhile, Lewis Brown's been in the system 2 years now. Gavin Freeman's been in the Oklahoma longer than I've been alive, it feels like. I think their experience is going to help them out there. I think Lagway feels more comfortable with taking shots at guys like Brown. And
one thing I will say about Draylen Miller is Draylen Miller did play in high school on some teams with Lagway. They had a 7-on-7. So there is a previous connection between the two that they had before college. So there's a little something to consider that might help a little bit.
Well, if I find out they're roommates, then I'll really buy in. How about that?
that is the key. If the roommates, the roommate really sells it.
So, alrighty. Well, I think with that we've come to the end of our show. Chris, you are awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on to here. Again, go check out all their work over at Rotowire. They got stuff really just beyond college fantasy, just a ton of great stuff for college football. Whether it's for fantasy, whether it's for betting, whether it's news items, like Chris and his whole team over there have it all. So go check out their stuff. I look forward to drafting against you on Tuesday, and hopefully we will see each other in the finals of the FSGA League again this year, Chris. I've knocked you out of that league twice, and I feel like your revenge is overdue. So I'm sure that'll happen at some point this season.
Yes. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, hopefully. But thanks for having me on. I definitely am not always a great build for a live draft, so hopefully I didn't.
You did great, man. You
mess up too much in here for you, but yeah. So hopefully it all went well. So
no,
thanks for having me on.
It went very well, Chris. Again, you're awesome, and I appreciate all of you guys there in the chat. You got very lively chat tonight. A lot of good reactions and good questions throughout the stream. Again, before you leave, make sure you like the video. Make sure you hype it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more of the streams. We will continue to do this all the way up until week 0. So don't think this is one of the final streams and everything. We'll be continuing this throughout the rest of the month of August. But until then, again, really appreciate you guys. Make sure you check out all the other stuff we have going on campusofcanton.com. Again, we'll have the CTN episode out for you guys on Tuesday this week. We'll be rating some of y'all's hot takes for the season and talking about some of the early fall camp news that we're getting out of there. Also, make sure you check out the rest of the Campus to Canton podcast network for shows pretty much ranging on pretty much anything you could think of for the game of college fantasy. Like I said, we'll see you guys back here next Sunday night for another live stream, another 30-round draft. Until then, appreciate you, Chris, appreciate all of you guys in the chat. Y'all have a wonderful and blessed night. See y'all.